I think we might get started. It's nearly 7:05. Okay. So, firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the land that we meet on tonight is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. Roll call. David is going to be a little bit late, so we put him down as an apology, and he will come around about 9 o'clock. So there's no other apologies. Motions to grant leave of absence? No? There's no leave of absence, no non-attendance. Public open forum. We have 3 people that wish to speak. They each get 5 minutes. Gavin Frost, Jodie Lind and Mr Ian Tooley. So firstly, Gavin, if you'd... Where are you, Gavin? Right there. Gavin, if you'd like to come forward and come to the podium and just turn it on. If you just flick the switch in the... There you go. Yes.
It's red.
Yep. I'll just... And you've got the floor, Gavin.
Good evening. My name's Gavin Frost. I represent the Gawler Vintage and Veteran Car Club. I'm here to respond in a letter that Shane Bailey has written to all councillors. In support of this, I have the Vice President of the club, I've got the Secretary, I've got the Membership Secretary, and we've got quite a few car club members here tonight. They actually don't agree with how this letter's written in regards to our club. I'd like to acknowledge that, Shane Bailey's a private citizen. He's entitled to have his comments. He's also a club member. And we have a process that hasn't been followed within the club. 3 general meetings of the club. I've got several copies of the meetings here which actually contradict, Shane's response to that the club's not in agreement in where it's all going. So I've got 3 sets of club minutes here which actually contradict those comments. I've also got a letter here from the SAES, which I believe that Tony Piccolo and the council have been aware of, which basically is granting us the use of the land to be able to build on. So we don't have a lease per se at this point in time, but the SAS are working towards getting a lease proposed for us. It's currently in at the Crown Solicitors and will be formalised. They've also stated that they're going to give us a works order because Shane's concerned that the council are proceeding with the approvals without actually having consent to be doing such. So there's a letter here confirming that we're moving forward on that. I've also got, Shane's sort of saying that, there was a lease that was produced for the council that the council actually interfered with, that never actually got off the ground and got happening. I've got a copy of that lease that sits here that's never been signed by the club. So the club didn't proceed with that lease. There's never really been any set grounds in any of the minutes on the purpose of why that hasn't been done. So that's, I don't understand why the council's choosing to be held responsible for that. As a builder, I'm finding it challenging to accept why the council's been held responsible for the alleged increase in costs and the delays, which is out of anyone's control in where it sits. So we dispute that aspect. The committee and the club are actually elated with the progress of our new facility, which is almost a reality. We're not far away from things, so we're extremely grateful in where that's going. There's comments in there that, after a club's veterans request, which appears to be repeated, that we're not getting 3 quotes, that I'm not acting appropriately within the club, I'm not putting things up to the club. In these minutes, it actually demonstrates quite the contrary. The club's aware of where things are at and what's going on, and that particular person was actually brought to their attention that they've raised this question several times before, and it's been in the minutes, so that they were requested to go look at the website and look at the minutes to have things answered. And it's also been mentioned that, just let this particular committee get on with their job, because we're actually achieving and we're getting things done with the support of the council. There's only a minority of our members in the club that appear to be upsetting things. We'd like to say that that's actually not the view of the club. We're grateful in where we're at, and we're really looking forward to getting our home up and running.
30 seconds, thank you, Gavin.
Sorry?
30 seconds.
Right. Last final point is to finish. The club and the committee would like to thank the council for their support and their advice to be able to build our new home and be able to support the broader community and the club into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next is Jodie Lind, Gawler Academy of Dance. Welcome, Jodie.
Hello everyone, I'm Jodie Lind and I'm one of the owners of Gawler Academy of Dance. Gawler Academy has been established here in the district for 35 years, providing dance education, and I see a former old scholar just sitting over there. I'm here to advocate for and support the ongoing continuation of the Gawler Christmas carols. You might think, why should we go ahead? Unfortunately, it's school holidays, so I didn't see a lot of my students, but I got some students to write down their thoughts about the Gawler Christmas carols. This is from Ivy. It was really fun, and Ivy goes every year. It was really fun. I got to hang out with my friends and the community, and I had lots of fun. The music was really good and upbeat. I loved it. This is from Stella. The Christmas carol should go ahead because it's a time for families to get together and enjoy themselves. It lets schools and groups sing Christmas carols and share them with others. That was Stella. And this is from Eva. The Christmas carol should go ahead because it's my school's favourite time of year to gather around and perform and watch friends express themselves in ways that would not be possible without it. So why should the carols go ahead and continue? It promotes community spirit. Families come together. There's 3,000 to 5,000 people that attend this event. Not to mention the local businesses that can take their little mobile food vans, etc., and gain extra business from the community event for extra trading. Now, I do also have, as you may recall, Emmanuel Lutheran perform every year. So I have got a note here from their performing arts teacher. The Carols event keeps some Christmas feeling and cheer alive. Are we trying to create a wonderful community event where the community can get together to enjoy talented artists, or are we wanting everyone to stay at home and be miserable? Emmanuel students love the opportunity to shine and spread some cheer. They just don't do the Carols events, but they also go out to nursing homes and sing Christmas carols. We need to build up our community with joy, love and spirit. It's also an opportunity for us Christians to remind everyone why we have Christmas. Not just about the commercial gain, but also for the love of Jesus. So just to sum up, at the end of the day, we do support Gawler Youth and the arts, and at the end of the day, we are not practicing in the studio artists. We're performing arts, and we'd like the opportunity for everyone to be able to continue performing and sharing the gifts they were given. Thanks.
Thank you, Jodie. Next, Mr Ian Tooley, proposed Edith Street closure.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm here to speak about the proposed Edith Street closure. First thing I'd like to say is that I totally support the members of that community and their concerns about the traffic going down there, but the closing of the street option, I think, is going to create more problems than it solves. Not only closing the street is the wrong solution, but it's problematic on a number of fronts. Just this last Sunday at 10:30, when I came down, you had a closure and you had a detour down Edith Street because you had an event in Pioneer Park and you directed traffic down Edith Street. You've got a massive inconvenience for an awful lot of people in Gawler. Most of the people that have spoken to me, and I've spoken to, see the problem of closing that street off. The safety around emergency services getting down to the street is another issue. And then if you close Edith, people are just going to go down Blanche Street. So I don't think that is the solution. I think what you've better to do is to address the cause of the problem. And I've written letters to the editor on this. I've spoken to members about this. There's one single factor that causes the greatest rush of people going down Edith Street, and most of those are trying to get to the Northern Expressway. They're trying to get through and weave their way through and finally get onto the Red Banks Road. It is faster to get to the Red Banks Road intersection onto the Northern Expressway if the traffic lights are working than it is to go through the rat running. But people rat run because the installation of the concrete blocks in front of Faster Pastor, and because of the changes to the High Street intersection that you put in, they have been counterintuitive. They've actually blocked the traffic at a time when you should be looking to increase the traffic flow. So the backup of traffic, and any one of you steps out and has a look, you'll see it there, worse at some times of the day. And what people then do is say, I am now going to go down Blanche Street or Edith Street. That's what they do. If you take those out and reinstate that intersection, you had 2 traffic lanes going down to the main street, and you had the opportunity to bleed into High Street. All of that graduated traffic flow, but there was one problem, and there were a few dingles because people couldn't egress and egress from High Street because people blocked the High Street intersection when the lights were red. The solution to that is like you see all around Adelaide. They print in large white letters, keep clear, and people do. Right now, there is no wording, keep clear. You have a look at the number of people who still block because they're desperate to get into the turning lane. They still block off High Street. If you remove that and reinstate the 2 lanes plus the 1 lane into High Street, you will get the traffic flowing. Any traffic engineer that you approach will tell you the main objective is to get better traffic flow with the existing infrastructure. The Williston roundabout is a perfect example of making the best out of a bad situation. It doesn't meet Australian standards because you would never have a pub, a bottle-o, a group of shops and a service station all entering onto that roundabout. But what they did, those engineers, rather than underpasses and overpasses, they used the best economy they could to design what they've got, and it works to the best it possibly can. The same applies to the High Street intersection. Any traffic engineer would tell you that what you did actually was counterintuitive and has blocked the traffic. That is where your solution lies, remove it. Now, before anyone says to me, Ian, we can't undo all of that expense, a couple of reminders. If you look at the installation of the chicanes that you put in Haynes Road at Williston, you spend hundreds of thousands putting them in, then you realised it didn't work, and you spent an awful lot of money, maybe the same hundreds of thousands, removing them. In our lifetime, we have all seen at least 3 incarnations of the Britannia roundabouts. We now have the double roundabouts existing. Each one of those cost millions as they tried to get it right. They had to accept they got it wrong, and they've tried to fix it. I urge you, members, to not close off Edith Street, but to look at the most common solution, move a motion to begin to remove the concrete islands in the middle, in front of Faster Pastor, reinstate that intersection, and in doing that, you will not only please the majority of people in Gawler who get trapped in those traffic jams, but you will also reduce the problem of the rat running. If you persist with what you're going to do, you will inconvenience the people of Gawler. It won't work well for the people of Edith Street. You'll force people down more rat running on Blanche Street. You will not solve the problem. And then you have the added problem of where are your detours, where are your emergency services going when you need to get into Edith Street after you've blocked it. It's about to be blocked off again, I would suggest, for any of your major events. You're talking of some of them tonight, carols, etc. You're going to keep doing it and you need Edith Street. So councillors, I urge you to rethink this and to reinstate the original intersections you had and plant over it in huge white letters, keep clear, and you'll solve the one problem that you did have. I'm happy to take any questions if there are, Mayor.
I won't ask any questions. Do anybody want to ask Deputy Mayor?
So question to staff about the High Street, do we have any control over that, or is that a state government road and a state government decision? Just wanted to be clear.
So Lyndoch Road and Barossa Valley Highway is DIT's road. Any changes to that has to have DIT approval.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any questions for any of the speakers? Jodie Lind and Gavin Frost. Any questions for those people? Thank you. Okay, no. So we'll move on to deputations. The first deputation is Damien McGee, President, Gawler and District Tennis Association, redevelopment of tennis courts. Thank you.
Good evening. On behalf of the Gawler and District Tennis Association, thank you for the opportunity tonight to reconfirm our commitment to partner with Council for the redevelopment of the tennis courts as a part of the Essex Park Master Plan and draft 2024-25 Town of Gawler budget. I acknowledge Mayor Karen Redmond, Deputy Mayor Cody Davies, Acting CEO Andrew Goodsell, Council members and Council staff, and also I'd like to acknowledge our local Member of Parliament, Tony Piccolo, who's here on another matter, but he's a patron of our association. Our association continues to work with all stakeholders to bring this project to shovel ready. The detailed plans of the redevelopment are near completion, with electrical to be received in the coming days. We pay our first invoice in the next few days and look forward to a WGA civil engineering walkthrough next Wednesday, 1st of May, and we invite any council members and council staff to join us to ask any questions you may have. Tennis SA are specifically updated as to our progress as we continue to present ourselves front and centre, as our state governing body's buy-in will be important to the Tennis Australia National Court Rebate Scheme, which forms a part of the external funding of this project. Our association has 2 tables this Saturday night at the annual Tennis SA Awards at the Convention Centre as we make our mark at a state level, including a finalist for Tennis SA Volunteer of the Year, presentation of the Metro League Division 4 Premiership, and one of our Gawler local players receiving Metro Player of the League honours. This is a significant representation for sport in our town, and we are proud to represent Gawler. The redevelopment of the courts remains vital as tennis participation continues to grow. Along with Gawler representative teams playing in Adelaide-wide Tennis SA competitions, we grew both our junior and senior local competitions last summer, including combining with Barossa Valley teams to form a strong mixed-gender junior competition. Indeed, the summer season momentum has continued as we start our first local junior winter tennis season this coming Monday. To give you some scope of the interest, we don't have enough courts to accommodate the competition as we need to use Trinity College courts to fit the 50+ winter junior kids every Monday. The redevelopment of the courts will see Gawler become the hub of regional tennis in areas surrounding Gawler, including the Adelaide Plains and Barossa Valley, with players also expected to visit weekly from the Clare Valley and York Peninsula for specialised coaching and squad trainings. An apt analogy would be to potentially consider us as the MCG of regional tennis should the project come to fruition. We note the Council staff report and tonight's agenda item regarding the Play Our Way grant program. We align with Council staff's recommendation in submitting an expression of interest in this program with a view to hopefully being asked to apply for funding. Our association has continued to drive female participation, including changing our local competition senior format to mixed gender to ensure we don't lose players, and we are proud to host 2 female tennis coaches at our courts, which is above average. I would also like to take this opportunity to reconfirm the association's financial commitment to this project. As a reminder, this includes paying for the detailed project plans to the tune of $30,000, $100,000 commitment from the Gawler District Tennis Association itself, and a $100,000 loan from Council. Our association continues to solidify itself financially, and this will further increase should the redevelopment go ahead. We would like to thank Mayor Redman and Council members for your support thus far. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Council staff, and more specifically David Barrett and Bryce Norton, who have been both very professional and transparent in all dealings. We acutely understand the complexities of bringing a project like this to life and don't take for granted how far we have come thus far. The Association is steadfast in its strategic plan in driving tennis growth in our region and sport more generally in our town. We know Gawler will achieve better social and community outcomes if we have the right infrastructure for all sports and all clubs and associations. We need to continue to engage our youth in our community spirit. Sport in Gawler has done this for generations, and the Gawler and District Tennis Association aims to take our place as community leaders in our town. I thank you for your time tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councillor Koch.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Damon, for your... I actually do support the tennis club. I think it's fantastic what you're doing, considering where it was a couple of years ago. It was pretty ordinary, and now it's pretty good. Just one thing I want to clarify. With the proposal going in on Friday, have you had a firm commitment from Tennis Australia for the $200,000?
Just, there you go.
Thanks for your question, Paul. No, so the way that the Tennis Australia funding scheme works, it's actually a rebate program. So the project has to be ticked off and approved before Tennis Australia engage.
Any other questions for Damien McGee? No, thank you. Thank you very much, Damien McGee, President of the Gawler and District Tennis Association. So now we have Tony Piccolo, who will be talking of the Gawler and Barossa Jockey Club. Thank you.
Your Worship, Councillors, thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. You may recall that I addressed you at the December 2024 meeting regarding the matter of a new rating policy for the Gawler and Barossa Jockey Club adopted by Council for the current financial year and beyond. Given the budget repair task before the Council, I can appreciate that councillors believe they need to make some tough decisions for the greater good. I can appreciate and respect that. However, council decisions should not be harsh, unreasonable or oppressive. Tough decisions can still be fair and equitable. I can understand why council has made the tough decision to cease the discretionary rate rebate for the Gawler and Barossa Jockey Club. I'm not critical of that decision because in itself it is not harsh or unreasonable. The implementation of the decision is, in my opinion, harsh, unreasonable and oppressive. Why do I believe that? The decision means that the 23-24 rates for the Gawler Barossa Jockey Club rise from $30,137 to $74,203 in 1 year and beyond. It represents a rate increase of $44,076 or an increase of 146% in 1 year. If you were to subject that increase to the reasonable person test, you'd be hard-pressed to find any person who would say that the 146% increase is fair and reasonable. What would be fair and equitable would be to implement the decision over a reasonable number of budget years. This approach would enable the Council to achieve its budget repair and enable the Gawler and Barossa Jockey Club to make the necessary changes to their budget so they can absorb the increases without having a significant negative impact on their operations. The Gawler and Barossa Jockey Club is a locally incorporated not-for-profit organisation. They are not Racing SA, nor are they the TAB. The club comprises local people who are trying to make a living from the industry, support local businesses, and in many cases volunteer their time. They are responsible for the operation of the Gawler racetrack. They need to fund the ongoing costs of maintaining the site for their racing activities, but also the site makes a positive contribution to the amenity of the entrance to the town. We all benefit from their contribution. If Council does not agree to implement the changes in a reasonable manner, then the club will have to reduce its already small staffing levels, and we all lose from that. Communities like Gawler thrive when there are positive relationships and goodwill amongst all sectors. It fosters collaboration and progress. A 146% increase in rates in 1 year does not foster goodwill nor build positive relationships. This decision will sadly have a way of haunting us once the dust has settled. As a community, we need the Gawler and Barossa Jockey Club and the Gawler Council to be on the same page, working together for the overall benefit of the community. Goodwill is the foundation on which good decisions are made. In conclusion, Your Worship, I am not asking the Council to not remove the rate rebate, as I understand the budget repair task you have before you. I do, however, ask you implement it in a manner that is not harsh, unreasonable or oppressive. That decision is in your discretion to make. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, that concludes deputations. Declarations of interest. Anybody has any declaration of interest? Councillor White?
Thanks, Mayor Redmond. I've just got a general conflict of interest with item 10.6.
10.6. Just let me write that down. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? No? Adjourned items, there are none. Petitions, there are none. Confirmation of minutes, ordinary council meeting 26th of March 2024. How do you wish to proceed, councillors? Are you happy to move that way, Councillor Hennessy? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Samble. Councillor Samble. Councillor Hennessy. And Councillor Samble. If there's no further discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Business arising from minutes? No? Thank you. So what we will do now is we will go to our order of business decision reports. We have 10.1. I'm on page 5 of 98. Yes, Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just seeking leave to move item 19.1, which is the Gawler and Barossa Jockey Club discretionary rebate, forward with the intention of putting a motion to defer that to the May meeting, and I can explain
Yep.
if you like that.
Yep.
Thank you. So I'll move.
You've moved that motion to move 19.1 forward. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ballalonga.
And may I
I'll
speak?
put that motion.
Oh, yeah, it's
I'll put
procedural.
that motion. All those in favour of moving 19.1 forward, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried. Yes, I know. We're going to have to kick people out. Yeah, we're going to have to kick people out.
If we vote to go into confidence, but may I can probably defer it without doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is carried unanimously. Carried. I'll just So the process from now will be, we will more than likely go into confidence. You will be probably kicked out, and we have a process of officers' recommendation to go into confidence. We would then vote on that. Then we would go into confidence. Okay.
If it's a motion to defer, we wouldn't have to go into confidence, would we?
Well, I think we need to discuss it. I think we need to discuss it. Yeah. I think because the issue is, Councillor Solomon, that there might be matters that might need to be discussed in confidence.
Well, I'm not going to be moving to go into confidence, but if someone else is moving that, then we can vote on it. That's fine.
Okay, so yes.
If we don't go into confidence and we've moved this item forward, does that mean all of a sudden all the attachments are then public documents? Well, I would have thought so, because all of a sudden they're public documents.
Yeah, that's the other issue.
It's just deferred. If it's deferred as a confidential report, it's just deferred to the next round of confidential reports, isn't it? Or unless there's something I'm missing, but there's no motion currently to even talk about going into confidence on. So, if we could have some governance advice. Yeah. Not to debate.
Okay.
And is that a procedural motion?
No, it's not.
It's not a procedural motion. That's fine
No,
then.
it's a deferral motion. Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want to move
Yep.
that?
I'm moving. Yeah, move to defer. And may I speak?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Redmond. So, just without going into too much detail on the substance of the report here, obviously there's been some ongoing conversations and people may have seen emails. There's a lot of extra information which has come through during that period. There's discussions which have been had. And moving forward, I think given the state of things at the moment, it wouldn't be beneficial to have that conversation in the chamber. The Jockey Club has agreed to have a conversation with council staff about what is available to them and actually go through the full detail of what's available to them in regard to that. And so I am moving to defer because I think that discussion would be beneficial so that we know the state of play and everyone is able to, that may be able to be resolved outside of a really cumbersome debate which would occur in the chamber where I don't think we would get a good outcome if we progressed and debated things which we probably don't have the expertise to debate.
Are you willing to second? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm more than willing to second. There's a business-to-business conversation that needs to be had here, realistically. We can play the opinion game on this particular matter as much as we want, but I think we owe it to the Jockey Club and to council staff to at least give the opportunity to talk through opportunities that are on the table and then see a future report come back. Because yeah, you want to get into the opinion game. I'm ready, but to be honest, that's not the best business decision to be making at this point in time, in my honest opinion. And I think this is a better way forward to have this discussion with the Jockey Club offline.
Any other discussion? Councillor Koch?
I'm concerned about what's happening here. I mean, I've read all the emails today, and it's not a matter of opinion. We've actually got professional advice from our Chief Financial Officer where it sits. And from my understanding, if we do certain things, it might not fit with the Act. Is that my, is that the, could I just get
I'll
something
go
up?
to Sharon Perkins, who can
Is that right?
make a comment without going into confidence. Yeah. There you go.
So yes, there was a lot of correspondence that was going between council members, and I suppose I was trying to clarify questions that related to the initial motion, which was what were the options for council, and I was presenting those options for council. We are governed by, obviously, the condition of the Act as to what the approach that can be adopted, and we also have our hardship policies. So that's what those discussions were, because that was initially the motion that was put forward as to wanting a report as to what options were available to council. So that was the nature of my response in the discussions to today.
Anybody else wish to make a comment? Councillor Hennessy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. It is a complicated matter, and there has been a lot of very last-minute discussion. I'm of a mind to support deferral to allow staff to continue conversations, but I don't see that as any prejudice to what my final decision might be. I'm very much of the opinion that we asked staff to do something and they've come back with some options for us to consider. I'm of a mind to support the staff in this, but happy to defer and see what else can be clarified. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor White.
Thanks, Mayor. Just briefly, I'm happy to support the deferral at this stage. Again, I think there's some more things that need to be addressed, and when emails are flying through at 4:59 this afternoon with information that I hadn't seen before, I don't think I can sit here hand on heart and say I'm making a fully informed decision. So happy to allow staff more time to discuss this with the Jockey Club and thank their cooperation. And there's obviously a lot of work that's been going on behind the scenes, but I would be very much opposed to rushing through this tonight without finding out all the information. So happy to support deferral at this stage.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Solomon, you can wrap up the debate.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that sentiment that I was trying to get has been well articulated by a couple of other members in the chamber, but this is an attempt to clean things up a little bit so that we can get, so that we know the state of play and we're not making decisions in a rush with, emails which come to at 4:30, or, we're not in a situation, because if we get to debating the report, I personally will be going hell for leather with absolutely no idea what emotion, with no clearer on what the options actually are that are available to us, and I would like to have that information prior to going into that discussion. So, yeah.
Thank you. The debate is closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried. Thank you. Okay, so we've dealt with 19.1. We now move to page 5 of 98. Draft annual business plan and budget for community consultation. Acting CEO, I'd like you to read it out. Thank you.
Through the chair, the recommendation is as follows: that council endorses in principle the draft 2024-25 budget as contained in attachment 1 to be included in the draft 2024-2025 annual business plan. 2, endorses in principle the draft 2024-2025 annual business plan as contained in attachment 2 be released for the purposes of seeking community feedback as required by section 123 brackets 3 brackets B of the Local Government Act 1999. 3, endorses the Acting Chief Executive Officer to make editorial changes to the draft 2024-2025 annual business plan as contained in attachment 2 prior to being released for public consultation. 4, notes that a further report on the draft 2024-2025 annual business plan and budget will be presented for its consideration following the conclusion of the consultation period. And 5, notes that a report on Council's rating strategy will be presented at the May Community and Corporate Services Committee meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. So we all know what we're voting on. Do I have a mover to move this way? Councillor Hennessy, do you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My favourite not terms endorse in principle. However, in this matter, I'm happy to support the wording. And I just wanted to underline that we are actually releasing it for the purposes of seeking community feedback, and we look forward to that. This is a report, a plan, a business plan, and with financial details in it that we have created using set budget parameters and agreed service levels, and to ensure that we're responsibly managing our debt and the long-term viability of the town, and that's stated in the report. We encourage the community to have a look at it and to provide their feedback so that when we meet again at the May CCS meeting, we can take their comments, their input on board. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Solomon, do you wish to speak?
That's fine. Happy to second this. Obviously, as Councillor Hennessy said, going out for community consultation and really looking forward to getting that feedback. I think it's important not to understate the situation which we do find ourselves in and the severity of that situation. We do have some challenges that we are going to need to overcome throughout this budget process. Apologies, I'm having some issues tonight. I'm feeling a bit unwell, but I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you need some Panadol? You're okay? Okay, good. Any further discussion? Councillor Koch and then Councillor White.
I'd be supporting this because it's important that we go to community consultation. We've spent a fair bit of time on this. The staff has spent a fair bit of time on this. There is a lot of repair that we need to do our budget. This will be the starting point for longer term repairs. It's been through the Audit and Risk Committee. They've given their comments and put a challenge to us how we can repair the budget. So I'm happy for this to go out to community consultation and look forward to the feedback. Thank you.
Councillor White.
Thanks, Mayor. I just have 2 questions through you first, if possible. The first one's about the wall, about Pioneer Park. In the draft business plan and budget, it says that the 2.1 million is going to be coming from rate revenue. Initially, I thought that was borrowings. I thought I read somewhere it was borrowings. I'm just wondering, has that shifted or why is it under rate revenue? And the second question was more of a point of clarification, and I just wanted to make sure I get my facts right, is that when we're looking at the average residential rate rise, we're looking at an average 8.6%, which would be $53 rise last year, $155 this year, as an average residential rate. I just wanted to clarify that point and ask about the wall.
Sharon?
Through the Mayor. That's probably just a typo error in relation to when we're actually preparing the document, so that can be rectified before it goes out to public consultation. Yes, in relation to your question, your interpretation is correct. I will just put some caveats around the modelling. So the modelling is based on early valuation information, and that will move from that perspective as well as we go through. And that's probably one of the reasons why the recommendation for the rating strategy or a report on the rating strategy goes to this community, the CCS committee in May, just so we can actually probably further elaborate the reasons why the rating has come out, the rate modelling has come out the way it is, because has been some differences compared to last year.
Okay, I think that addresses that question. Yeah.
Thank you. So just to clarify, the funding for the wall would be borrowings. It's just a typo that's under rate revenue.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Any other comments, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, so on that same attachment that Councillor White was referencing about the rates, it showed it was sort of a 6%, but it was 8.6 for residential. It was only like 1 or 2% for business, and whereas last year it seems it was a huge amount for business. Can you sort of clarify what's going on with that?
Thank you.
I suppose I probably preempted these questions, and hence my recommendation to have a further discussion at CCS. So what's the difference from last year compared to this year is that last year, effectively the valuation growth across the residential sector and the commercial sector was pretty much in par. So that separate, the distribution of the rates across those two sectors was in line with what the rate revenue increase was. This year, what we're actually seeing is that there's been very minimal growth in the commercial sector. So the property values from a commercial from memory at this point in time has been around about 5%, whereas the residential sector on average across all land uses within the residential, so that's rural and normal residential, is around about 15%. So what we're actually seeing is a shift, I suppose, of that a redistribution of that rate, the rate revenue, and this year, effectively, the residential sector is probably wearing a high proportion compared to last year. But that's the point of the report for CCS, to explain that in a bit more detail.
Thank you. I think that addresses that question as well. Okay, so any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, I think we've been having some good discussions this year in regards to budget. There, in my opinion, has been a little bit of a lacking overarching tie in regards to our long-term financial plan and our strategic documents that relate back to our actions that we're hoping to achieve. One of the fundamental things that I'm seeing through the organisation, and again, credit where credit's due, is the understanding of those missing links and what we're going to do to be able to invest in them to try to get those boots on ground actions actually funded in coming years. You know, the service reviews that we're undertaking, the current economical climate, all those things that we as a business, we need to look at. We need to be understanding of those, and we also need to, like any business, learn from our mistakes of the past, or what has fitted and worked in the past may not fit in current terms, or it might, you know, but unless we do have that appetite of that quality improvement that we see through a lot of businesses, we just will keep on repeating the same. So I just wanted to, I guess, give a nod to staff that I am listening and I am appreciating your approach. You know, it's pretty easy to see that when we're coming back to the service reviews, I mean, how much have we changed in budget cycles of the past to say, hey, look, our fundamental service levels are a point of no return now, and we're seeing a budget come through that is actually identifying those depot staff that we know have not increased in population in a number of years, but our staff's responsibility on all that vested space and the like has. So an acknowledgement and a strategy on how we're going to combat this is being picked up. It is unfortunate that we do have to go out to our ratepayers and we do need to request that more money. So there is a balancing act here on what we deliver and front of house delivery as well. I think one of my colleagues, Councillor Solomon, put it really good in the campaign, the little things done right. I can't stop unhearing that. And it is true to the sentiment that was meant at the time, because we want more money, we want to be trusted with more money to deliver on more community outcomes, then we need to deliver on those outcomes, and we need to deliver on those outcomes well. If we are promising our ratepayers that we're going to invest in a $15 million capital works project in one financial year, then we actually need to deliver on that. Unfortunately, we're not seeing that, and that's not a crack at Wendy and her team. It's about actually looking at this strategically. It's not with any malice intent to say we're going to deliver on these projects and then not deliver. But let's be real. Let's go back on the data and see what we're doing. If there's a $2 million project that is more likely to go over 2 budget cycles, well, then let's reflect that in our budget cycles. That's what we're starting to see come through. That's what our Audit and Risk Committee are picking up, and that's what we're starting to see the ties into our long-term financial plan. We've still got a lot of work to do. This quality improvement journey isn't a one budget cycle thing, but again, I just want to put out there that I'm liking where we're heading, albeit I'm not liking the sell of pulling more money out of our ratepayers' pockets, but that's the onus on us.
I'd like to make a few comments. I'd like to congratulate staff on the financial indicators. Net financial liabilities is 85.9%. The operating ratio is 3.9%. With our long-term financial plan and our asset sustainability ratio, those two are intrinsically linked. And with asset renewal, we're not doing a lot of new infrastructure. However, we're doing asset renewal, and that's at 104.8%. So $9.182 million. Is that $1 million? Yeah. So asset management plans are intrinsically linked to the long-term financial plan. So with rate rises, as Nathan quite rightly said, but we also need to look at service reviews. We need to look at, and that's what the Audit and Risk Committee is looking at. We need to look at service reviews. We need to look at our rate rises, and we need to get back into surplus before 227. So I think that's. I'd congratulate staff on a well-written report. It provides an opportunity to go forward, and I think that it is an excellent report, and with our asset sustainability ratio and asset management plans, it is intrinsically linked to our long-term financial plans. So I'll leave that with you. Thank you. I'll go to Deputy Mayor.
Yeah,
and then Councillor White.
I'm happy to support the motion. I think we've been working on this for a few months now. Well, we've been working in some ways on this for a long time now, but we've been having various sessions over the past few months on how to handle this. I think we've recognised that we have problems where, as you'll see in our upcoming 10.2 report, we need to expand our borrowing facilities because we're going to hit our debt limit. And so we need to look at this stuff. We've trimmed down as much as we can. There are things that we've cut down on a lot of the things that were optional. There are things that we need to spend on because it will save us money in the long term, or because it's just simply a necessity for a growing council. We don't have the luxury of some councils of just being able to focus entirely on renewal, because our council continues to grow and those new areas often just don't have the facilities that they need. And so we need to get that stuff in place. A lot of the southern half of the Gawler Council area is, I know, where a lot of our backlog of new footpaths and all that sort of thing is lacking especially. So yeah, look, we need to look at this seriously, and you know, to some extent that means some cuts, but it also can mean rate rises, and I know that's, you know, that's a tough thing to sell to the community, especially when, you know, there's always something you can point out, something that someone can say, oh, well, this was done inefficiently, or this pothole wasn't done on my road, or, you know, so why are you asking for more money for this when, you know, you haven't done this? But fundamentally, we need to look at our finances, and sometimes that means we need to look at our rates. And so we'll continue to have some discussions on this, but I'm happy to support this motion.
Councillor White.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to start by thanking staff and specifically Sharon and her team for working on this and presenting what we've got tonight. It's a tremendous effort, and I think the process that we've gone through over the past few months as an elected body has been fantastic. So to send this out for community consultation now is brilliant. Look, for me, I think it comes down to community expectations. You know, there is a fine balance when we're spending public money between, you know, providing services to our town that the community really enjoys, while also being conscientious that this is their money and we can't spend it on everything. And I think this budget, while I'm not happy with everything entirely, I think does strike that really good balance, a good compromise where we're showing to our community that the Gawler Council at the moment is in a financially tricky situation. However, we're still investing for the future, and we're still going to make sure that we're spending money so that they get a benefit from the services, they get benefits and services from the rates that they provide. Yeah, look, an average residential rate rise of 8.6% is a hard sell, and that is going to be very difficult for many of our community members to swallow. However, I think what we need to do, it's our job as elected members, is to explain and educate to our community, this is what's going on, this is why our budget looks like it does, and more importantly, this is why, unfortunately, we need to see that rate increase. I don't agree with that. I don't think any of us really want to see any sort of rate increase, let alone one that's over 8%. However, I think it's really important that we, moving forward, need to explain this is the situation we're in, and this is why we need to do what we need to do. Look, it does help. It really helps our case when I see lines like this, saving goals to be delivered across the year through efficiency reviews, emphasis on essential infrastructure renewal and upgrade, supported by future planning needs. That's a really good statement that I think pretty much sums up the budget at this stage. Is while we are asking for a rate rise, we're also being very conservative, I would say, with our spending. And it's almost like we're in repair mode. We are in repair mode, basically, and this is why we need to do it. So it does give me more comfort when I see statements like that dotted throughout the budget. Again, like I said, I'm not entirely happy with everything in the budget. I think most of you know my position on the Pioneer Park wall at the moment and that huge expense. And you know, that's okay. We're all entitled to our own opinion. But from the community I represent's point of view, at this stage, it doesn't sit right with me. However, I'm happy to support the recommendation that we go out to community consultation, that we gain public feedback, but I really just want to urge us as elected members to engage with our community, explain to them and educate. This is the budget as it stands. This is what we're looking at in real numbers. This is what it means for you, but also link that with this is what it means for council as well. I'm not saying that's easy. I think it is a really, really tough sell, but I also think at this stage, for us to continue to be a financially sustainable council, this is a path we need to move forward. And I also look forward to the future discussion at the CCS meeting regarding rating and how that might look from different perspectives in our community too. I think that's a really important discussion. But at this stage, for sending the budget out for community consultation, I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Hennessy, are you happy for me to put that motion? I'm going to, the debate is now closed. I will put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Right, so I'm now on page 15 of 98. 223-24 borrowing facilities. Acting CEO, I'd like you to read this out. Thank you.
Through the Chair. The recommendation is as follows, that Council 1 notes the cash advance debenture facility CA108 LGIPP with a borrowing limit of $900,000 matures on 17 May 2024. 2, approves a replacement cash advance debenture facility to the value of $900,000 for a 10-year term to be taken out with the Local Government Finance Authority. 3, authorises the Mayor and Chief Executive Officer to sign and apply the Common Seal of Council to all relevant documents to execute the documents pertaining to a 10-year cash advance debenture.
Thank you. Thank you for reading that out. So we know what we're voting on. Do I have a mover? Councillor Shanks? Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, members or staff, but I see this as a bit of a refinance tactic here to bring us in with current day. You know, businesses, or private entities also refinance all the time. So this is a part of that review that we talked about in the last matter, constantly looking at what opportunities we have. In the end, this refinance option is going to be better long term. There's no other way to put it by my reading of it. But again, I'm happy to be corrected if I've misinterpreted the report.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hennessy, do you wish to speak at all? Thank you. So Councillor Shanks has moved. Councillor Hennessy has seconded. We have read the motion out. We know what we're voting on. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Shanks, are you happy for me to put that motion? Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Monthly finance report, March 2024. Thank you. That Council, in accordance with section 59(1)(a)(7) of the Local Government Act 1999, has considered the information contained in the monthly finance report as of 31st March 2024 and notes the report detailing a favourable year-to-date variance of $211,000. That's what we're voting on. So, do I have a mover? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor White. Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Okay, so now we have, I'm on page 26 of 98, Land Management Agreement for Proposed Land Division at 32A Power Road, Evanston. How do we wish to proceed? Do you want to move it? Yes, yes.
Just through you, the report, the way that it sits, and probably to Andrew or David, the report, the way that it sits, seems like a little bit of a change of an ownership, but then also an update in the PDI Act, which allows certain other aspects of it, and it's almost bringing it in line with current state of play, given the block, the tree has been removed and the like. I saw this as a procedural sort of matter, but yeah, is there anything we should be aware of, I guess is the question.
What I noticed was that there's a complete lack of any landscaping. There's just no landscaping. There's a couple of trees thrown in, and I didn't particularly like where I know that they're going to take out a regulated tree. It's already gone. Is it already gone? Oh, it's already gone. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, but there's just no, there's no, this is the landscaping. We've got one tree here, we've got two trees there, we've got one tree, one tree, one tree, one tree, two, 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 three. That's it. There's none, and I think we can do better than that. Yeah, I just didn't like what I saw there. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it really is not good. At least have a tiny little pocket park or something. Yeah, so that people can, because these people will. They're tiny little rooms, and there's no backyards, there's no front yards, there's tiny little roads, and in the land management agreement it details about parking cars to let the Norma truck in, and I don't think that's going to happen. They won't get it in. David Militovic. Yes.
Yes, through the Mayor. So, Councillor Shanks is right. So this is a procedural update. So obviously the PDI Act has changed. In terms of things like landscaping and stuff like that, so that's still currently being assessed by council planners. The site does have front yard, so there will be additional landscaping in front of each house. And with regards to the truck movements by Norma, so Norma has stated that they will not enter the site unless the vehicles are out of the way. So the only way for bin pickup to work is if the roadway is clear. So there will be a requirement under the LMA, and there will also be a requirement from the actual scheme description that will be with the actual land division. If cars don't move, then bins will not be picked up. So if cars are there, residents will soon learn that they need to move their cars to have their bins picked up.
So where are they going to put their cars? That's a question. Yeah, that's a question. Yep.
So there will be a driveway for each house and also a garage. So the actual car parks that are in the roadway are on-site visitor car parks. Right. So additional to each house.
Right. Okay. Councillor Hennessy.
Yeah, like you, Mayor, I just looked at that, getting the cars off the road on collection days, and just given our experience in Aspire and a few of the other developments, good luck on that. I think we're going to have rubbish bins piled up for quite a while. Getting 20 different lots of landowners who often own multiple cars to clear the road. I'll look with interest to see how that gets on, but I think it's going to be a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, I tend to agree. When most people have two cars, and because you've got to get to work, you've got to work, you've got to get to your job, and you've got to come home, and these roadways are not big enough to have cars in them. I just think they're going to be filled with cars, and I think that there might need to be some accommodation made for people who have two cars. Yeah, and a lot of people fill their garage up with stuff. So because they don't have a garage out the back, so they fill it up with stuff, and they can't fit their car in the garage. So I think that there might be issues there. Councillor Lorna.
Thank you for that. I'm in support of it. I think it's something that we need to really activate that space for housing in particular. We know there's a shortage of housing as we're going. As already been pointed out, there is 2 parking spaces there. You've got the garage, whether you choose to fill it up or not, and the driveway. We've also made the statement already that most people need 2 cars to go to work. You leave in the morning, go to work and come home. Majority, not everyone, not saying that. A lot of people take pride in their homes and that as well. Yes, it is a small area. We need to put some decent housing out there. They're already working in regards to the frontage of the homes and that as well. So in the perfect world, yes, we'd have nice green areas everywhere and trees and that everywhere, but it's not a perfect world. We've got room here to make some stuff, and I'm sure the council's going to be making sure that it's going to be used to its best ability. So I actually support what's going on here. Thanks.
No,
Am I?
you.
I thought we already did.
Would
sure.
you like to move it?
Yeah, well, let's do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lorna. Moved by Councillor Lorna. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sample.
I'm just wondering if it's at all possible that on page 27 that we're talking about, a picture tells 1,000 words. Could that be put on the screen so that what we've been talking about, everybody, if they haven't seen it, is there? Because when it comes to the point, we've got a map in front of us here that is a good little red line being put around. We don't know what the street directions are going to be like, and we're being asked to vote for it. I think it can't be put up there, Susie. But what I mean is, surely the developers, and also through our staff, would make sure that the conditions of roadways and things like that would be in place. And the CEO's nodding his head, but it'd be lovely to see a picture, because the picture here looks good, but it looks like a mass of houses, and it's just going to be another mass of houses.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kosh.
Yeah, I've got a couple of comments. I mean, I agree with the road. It's quite narrow, 2 cars, people have cars, maybe 3. I think there will be concern with Norma. I just want to get clarification on the acoustics, because we had one letter saying that even though there's going to be the electric train, there's still going to be issues with acoustics, but there's now a new ministerial code or something. And the last one is the landscaping. I've looked at the landscaping. It's I think, pretty ordinary. And I just want to point out that Lights View, for example, was assessed as the most energy efficient development in Adelaide a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
And yes, it was, because everyone has to have air conditioners and everything else. And this, to me, looks like another Lights View, but a mini version. So it's actually going to put people, because there's no room to put any trees or anything, and they're close and everything else, black roofs. You're actually going to put people into pretty unsavoury conditions there, but that's what the developers are going to serve up, and that's, I suppose, is affordable, I suppose, and that's what we get. But I mean, I do concern that there isn't enough room for trees. Where, for example, in Victoria, I think there's you need to have a percentage of bare ground, I think, in each development to actually allow for a substantial tree, not little trees. So, yeah, they're just my concerns. But anyway, get a response to the acoustic issue. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those comments. Any other discussion? Yes? Oh, the acoustics. David B?
Yes, through the Mayor. So as part of the original application, when that was assessed, there was no minister spec for acoustic requirements. That has since come into play. The previous application was assessed by 2 acoustic engineers that put forward recommendations based on the non-electrified rail line. Now that that rail line has been electrified and there is a code in most cases where there is a noise overlay, they will be, there is a requirement under building assessment to design a house to meet that specification. This same specification has been endorsed previously by council for the LMA at Oleana Waters too. So this is no different to that LMA.
Thank you. Are you happy with that response? Thank you. Any other discussion? You've already... Oh, yeah. You want to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, I'd love to be able to expand on the conversation because I think there are some good points raised in regards to what we should be building in the future. Unfortunately, this report isn't that. This is a procedural matter that if we go back, and in the attachments, Councillor Sample, the mapping of how the road will work is there as well. Now, those designs come through and try to abide by the current Planning and Development Act, and traffic engineers and the like design the roads to try to work with turning circles. One of the things that they also work through with is, as Councillor Lorna rightfully pointed out, is the 2-car parking, because the average household has, I think it's like 1.7 cars, which is dumb, but that's how it works. As how those people live, that's not in council's remit. As how people choose to landscape their front yards, I would love to say, look, everyone has the same pride as I'm sure we all do here in our front yard, and that helps our streetscape, but unfortunately the reality is that isn't the same appetite throughout our community, and a different conversation. When we talk about black boxes, I don't disagree. Councillor Koch, and building materials need to be looked at, at a higher level, and more sustainable building, and even this apartment living, absolutely. But the current specifications that sit right now that this developer is abiding by, and why this land management agreement is procedurally going to this level, is because the 6-star energy rating that's currently there is what they're going to have to try to tick the boxes on when they reach that stage. I remind members that in 2012, when this last land management agreement was drawn up, there was actually 20 dwellings wedged in there. We've now got to 18. Now, that doesn't help our ratepayer base by 2 houses, but it certainly helps the space feeling by 2 dwellings. So, albeit that the conversations tonight in regards to landscaping energy efficiency are warranted ones for a bigger picture, a bigger view on landscaping and building materials, that's not what this one is about, because realistically we're fitting in a parcel of land, and yes, unfortunately it's more of the same, but if that's the model that's working in that area, I'm saying, look, let's follow this process through, because that sort of development right next to the rail corridor does sort of start aligning with some of those bigger picture thinking we've been talking about on a state level. Whether or not we agree with them doesn't mean that this particular LMA isn't ticking the right boxes at this current time. So look, this has my support, because again, it came across as a procedural matter before, and yeah, I'm happy to support this moving forward.
It is a procedural matter, and it has been sold to another party, and yes, there are 18 lots on there. However, I think that I'm really pleased to hear that you're still assessing the landscaping. I think that needs to be looked at very carefully. Yes. Anyway, and 8.5 wide road and 10-point wide road. I'd like to see a truck get through there and turn around. So, we'll see how this goes. It is a procedural matter, as you said, Councillor Shanks, but let's see where it goes. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Lorna, are you happy for me to put that motion? Thank you. I'll put that motion. The debate is now closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Right. Play Our Way funding program, Gawler and District Tennis Association. Officer's recommendation. You want to move it, Councillor Deputy Mayor? And you wish to speak?
Yep, I think the Tennis Association is probably the model of what you would want in a local sporting association. They've been doing a lot of the work on their own. They've done their future planning. They've got an engineering firm to develop designs and a cost estimate, are going out talking to, their own industry, the Tennis Australia and all these other groups. I think, they're a very proactive group, and it would be great to, if we could get that funding.
Thank you. Are you happy to second? Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Karen. And I agree with Deputy Mayor. We've seen tonight how the President has spoken, and as Cody has said, the amount of work that's been done behind the scenes. And tennis is a big thing in South Australia. It's very, very healthy, not for old fellas like me, but that's beside the point. But Damien seems to think he can have a game with me, but I'd probably have a heart attack, Damien. But I'm certainly very, very happy and would urge all councillors to support this, because this is a very valuable asset for our community into the future.
Thank you. So I've got a mover and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Cody Davies and Councillor Brian Samble, seconded. Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, yes, Mel, I'm happy to support this. I'm very impressed by what this association has done. It wasn't so long ago that the association was struggling, and I think someone said, you'd need Ash Barty to come to Gawler to make people come to the tennis, but that's gone now, that's passed. A lot of people are playing. For example, you only have to go down the street and see tennis courts down there aren't being used. These ones are. I've got a bit of connection with the Lindock Tennis Club, and they're looking for a place to play for a year, so you never know, there might be more people come to play at Gawler, so I'm happy to support this. Thanks.
I think it needs to be acknowledged, the hard-working committee of the Gawler and District Tennis Association. Damien McGee has led that group with style and class, and they've just got a really hard-working committee, and I can't tell you just how hard they work. They're down there every single day. So, and they look after that tennis association beautifully, and I think that it is very, very, very. It's a really elegant, and I think Bryce. Where's Bryce? Oh, right down the back there. You've written a very good report, Bryce, and I think that it captures what the elected members want to see. So thank you. Any other discussion, Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, thank you. Look, I'm really humbled to see the support in the chamber tonight, and hopefully moving forward, because I think we can all agree that this isn't a club that's come in with handout and said, I've got all these problems. I don't necessarily know how much it's going to cost, but I need it all fixed. And, that's not to take away from other clubs and the like, because unless you have a strategy or a focus, you might not know what else to do. I think the president of the Tennis Association has shown what their worth is and what they're willing to do, all in, for a fundamental delivery of court surfaces, because it's not necessarily about what they want, it's about what they need in the first instance, because if they don't have those playing courts, they can't keep up with the momentum that great association is driving towards right now. They won't be set up to support the region, which is one of their top visions here to become that tennis hub of the north. And we all know the benefits that spins out into our town that we all will like to benefit from. If we don't take this opportunity to jump at this, and we don't know that this grant body is going to look at us favourably and we're going to secure the money needed to resurface the courts either and build the 2 extras. But just look at page 33 of 98 and look at that partnership. This is what we're willing to put in. This is what we're hoping Tennis SA put in. This is what the body are going to put in. And here's what we've done to drive this. We have employed the consultants because we want to drive the design and we're willing to show we're willing to invest in that. I think these opportunities are one of those strategic opportunities that, should we not follow this through, and congratulate the association and Bryce and his team for the work that's been going on for a lot longer than a couple of months in this space to reach this recommendation, then we're missing an opportunity that could cost this council millions of dollars should you have to rebuild it ourselves because we lose the appetite of the association. So yeah, I think this is a great opportunity, and it also helps us keep up with our Essex Park Master Plan, which we went out to the community. We said we want to deliver on this. This is an opportunity to deliver on a small part of it, and we should always strive to work in partnership in this way.
Any other discussion? If not, Deputy Mayor, are you happy for me to put the motion? The debate is now closed. I shall put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Gawler Carols. Apex Club representative Bronte Rhodes and Leon Bottom will be in attendance to respond to any question. Would you like to come up to the podium? And if there's any questions, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering if I could ask through you. Last time you came in, you heard our conversations and the like, and I thought I'd just take the opportunity to get you to walk us through how you found your meeting and where you're at in the current climate.
Thank you, Councillor Shanks, for your question. The meeting went very well. We went through all the aspects of the event, our current budget, how the event is held, the benefits of the event, the number of attendees we have. All this information's in the report already. We were able to confirm we get approximately 5,000 people down there. They stay for approximately 4 to 5 hours for the length of the event. We don't use commercial caterers. We actually encourage Girl Guides, Scouts, Lions and Rotary to all do the catering for the event. We also will routinely get requests from other community groups to sell glow sticks and alike, which we encourage. The last year that we cancelled due to weather, we also had actually engaged the Girl Guides to come out and, instead of catering this time, would actually to help us in and around the scenes, rubbish collecting and helping in other things like line management. These are all the benefits that we're able to provide to the local community, in addition to obviously a fantastic event. So yeah, the meeting itself was really productive. We were able to confirm that the total budget from last year to this year had actually come down. We were able to cut a few corners essentially and reduce our budget by approximately $5,000 from the year before. There is no fat in this budget. We went through all the sort of line items that we had. Gawler Apex does this event at no cost to them, no benefit to themselves other than putting on a great community event. That's what we're about. From our point of view, the meeting went really well. We did talk about sponsorship arrangements and those sort of issues, which we are going to actively pursue this year. That was one of the reasons why the budget came down. So we set ourselves a budget of trying to raise the extra $5,000, which we think we'll probably need. we try to budget our events, for those who aren't aware, with an operational surplus. The reason we do that is we've got probably best part of $1 million worth of equipment we've hired or brought in, of which if something goes wrong with it, we might have to pay for some of those costs ourselves. The biggest risk to us is things that are left overnight, like marquees and toilets, which sometimes get vandalised, unfortunately. So having an operational surplus is necessary from a risk management point of view. But all those issues were discussed in a really positive way, and I thank the Mayor for running that meeting for us.
Thank you. Do I have a mover for the... yes, we need to deal with your conflict of interest. Sorry, Councillor White.
All good, Mayor. Yeah, so just disclose that I've got a general conflict because I've worked with the Apex Club in a voluntary capacity at one of their previous carols. So it's a general conflict, and I'll deal with it by staying in the room and voting in the best interest of the broader Gawler community. I do have some questions as well, if that's okay, Mayor. Thanks. Sure. Leon and Bronte, thank you both for coming tonight. Thank you for working through this. I think you witnessed the concern that a few of us had, and me personally had, when we were discussing obviously in the context of our current budget cycle and that sort of stuff. I think you both understood that. So it's really great to see the discussions that you've had, and actually to have all the information laid out in the report as it has makes me feel a lot more comfortable. I guess at the time I didn't have all that information, so that's why personally I felt like I wasn't quite yet ready to vote and extend the contract, but now I very much feel comfortable doing so. So I think, we can all concur and appreciate the work that you both do and the Apex Club do, not just in the carol space, but in a range of other events. So thank you. I did actually have a specific question in the report it talks about the event cancelled, and obviously, unfortunately, there's been a bit of bad luck in recent years with weather. It said about exploring options for an inclement weather site, if that was possible. Is there any update on that exploration at the moment, or could you just give us a rundown if you have looked at that?
Thank you for your question. Yes, we've actually had several chats with the Gawler College about the use of their, I think they call it the atrium area, which, whilst not totally enclosed, is a covered area that we think would best suit. It's already got a stage, it's already got screens, it's already got speakers, it's already got a large area that can hold about 2,000 to 3,000 people. We feel that location best suits our backup venue, essentially, because we've always viewed this as an outdoor event close to nature and the like, and that's why having it in a park like Pioneer Park is really valuable. And we've been reluctant to switch it to the rec centre or alike, because we felt that lost the very nature of the event. So we're really keen to partner with Gawler College on that, and we've already had several discussions about the use of their facility.
Before I go to Councillor Hennessy, I'd like to see if somebody wants to move the motion. Do you want to move the motion and speak to it? And I'd like a seconder if that's possible, and then I can open it up to discussion, and I'll go straight to Councillor Hennessy, who's got her hand up. Yes.
I'm happy to move the motion. I was part of the discussions with the Carols group. I think there's been some good discussion. I think it's good to have it all laid out, showing the exact fees and how they add up. I think there's, without that, I think some people can think, is there just a $20,000 appearance fee or something that we can cut for, someone? But it's not, it's all, as I can see it, fairly reasonable. We're not gonna get rid of the toilets or the ambulance or whatever, I think you wouldn't be allowed to run it, actually. Look, this is, as noted, this is a cutback of about $5,000 on, on the approved amount for last year, not the actual spend for last year, since it obviously didn't go ahead. I think if we want to discuss, the future of it, I think I don't think on the fly we should make any sort of major things that would jeopardise the current operation of the carols. So I'm happy to move this motion.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Villalonga, thank you. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Villalonga? No, thank you very much. So Councillor Villalonga is seconding it, and I'm going to go to Councillor Hennessy, who's waiting very patiently and asking some questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question. I actually, in the attachments, couldn't find the Carols agreement. Is it just my copy? Because I went looking for it and I can't see it. So I wonder when we'll be supplied with that, because it's a bit hard to move forward without actually seeing the agreements. My second question, perhaps, to Leon, is you've talked about, well, the area in the report, and it's on page 40 of 98, talks about the operational surplus, which you mentioned. Just for clarification then, you keep a surplus back each year in case you have some damage or vandalism, but surely that's covered by an insurance rather than a surplus of costs.
That's probably true, except we do have quite a high excess. The Apex insurance is not general insurance like the sort of insurance council may have on its assets. Our Apex insurance wouldn't cover things like vandalism for hired goods. It's essentially volunteer insurance with some components of public liability. So no, our insurance wouldn't cover those issues. We'd have to take out additional insurance to cover that, which would obviously come at quite high expense.
You've got another question, Councillor?
Yeah, I guess it's a follow-up to staff then. I still find it curious that we do support the surplus staying with the Apex Club, and I'm wondering if there is, given the reason, and I'm sure it's quite genuine, is there some other way that that could be dealt with?
David, if you can answer that question. Are you able to answer that question? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through you. So the intention, it is in the agreement and is detailed in the agreement. Apologies it's not attached. It is a record in the agenda to be attached, so I'm not sure where that went. We've lost a couple of attachments this way, so we'll provide that through to members after the meeting. However, in that agreement it says that the surplus will be provided to the Apex Club for the life of the agreement, and at the end of the agreement, or if the agreement's terminated, then the surplus will be returned to council. So it actually comes back to council in the end. So we're, as staff, quite comfortable for the Apex Club to carry that small amount across. It also enables the Apex Club to go and seek greater sponsorship levels and use that for future events as well. So having that bit there is fine, because we know that at the end of all of the events, it will come back to council.
I've got the Carol's agreement in here, but you haven't got it? No, you haven't got it. No, on that basis, Mayor. Yeah. Yes. Just turn, if you'd like to turn. Thank you.
Sorry, on that basis, it is hard to agree to the sponsorship deal. You know, the report is quite detailed. It's certainly, I get the sense of that. I know you and the Deputy Mayor have had a conversation, but I feel very uncomfortable not being able to see an integral part of the arrangement.
It's not. I apologise. It's not in here. Placeholder for attachment A, Gawler Carol's agreement, but it's not in here. It's not in here. I apologise. Councillor Samble.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Bronte. Bronte, I notice here that it was $1,000 for generator, to hire a generator. Approximately 10 years ago, the whole of Pioneer Park was completely re-electrified with a special box to be able to have major events and that. Can you explain why you have to hire a generator for that event, please?
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I'll answer if that's okay. Our power requirements exceed the current power of that upgraded system. The upgraded system is a welcome introduction, because it actually reduces the number of generators we need to get. We need approximately 3 32 amp sockets of which there's only one in that board where we need it. There is additional power near the car park, but obviously we can't run power through the whole of our crowd. So the generator is additional power beyond the network's current supply.
Could council rectify that by some other backup so that there's $1,000 a year you're going to save? That's where I'm coming from.
I think that's probably a better question for Mr Barrett over there in terms of the total cost for upgrading the already upgraded system to 3 times its current capacity. It'd probably be quite more than $1,000, I would suggest.
Yeah,
the current power for that power pole, I think, is capped at about, I thought it was 60 amps off the top of my head, and we require quite a lot more than that. And also, generally speaking, we've had some issues in the past with power, and we like to have our power coming from multiple sources if possible. That way, if there is some issue with either a generator or a current power supply, we have the ability to try and manage the load if possible.
Would you like to make any comment, David Barrett? No? No? You're quite comfortable? Quite comfortable, okay.
We can get the agreement circulated to the council in the next 2 minutes. We're just dragging on the trip.
It might be a bit late for that. Because yeah. You can send it around, but you can circulate it, but we won't have time to read it. We won't have time to read it. Leon?
I might be overstepping and I apologise. My understanding is the sponsorship agreement that is being offered to us is actually a standardised document. I myself was asked as a business member to actually provide comment on that, but different. There was another one. Okay. My apologies.
Would you like to make comment, David Barrett?
So through the chair, I can clarify that that was in relation to the recipient of funding's acknowledgement of council in sponsorship agreements. The agreement between council and the Carols, and for the Carols, to the Apex Club, was actually provided to the March CCS meeting. There's been a slight change to that agreement through the negotiation, being the amount of money being reduced from 35 that was in that agreement to 34,800, and the ability for the Apex Club to retain the surplus until such time that they don't run carols, and then the surplus comes back to council. They are the 2 changes in that agreement that was presented as part of the agenda to the March CCS.
Thank you. Thank you, David Barrett. Thank you. What? Oh, right. Okay. Well, okay. We probably won't be able to read it in the middle of a debate, but thank you anyway for sharing it. Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this. I think the sentiment of the room when we said, hey, can we have a bit of a chat and see what sponsorship opportunities and the like are available, was with no disrespect, I believe, to the carols and the great work the Apex Club do. And, you know, I think we need to be showing that we're always willing to open up those conversations to ensure that that public money is being spent the way we want it to. And to be honest, we talked about rate increases and budgets in previous items, and we have a lot of more conversations to come in the coming months. You don't want to go, personally, I don't want to be the council that goes out and asks for one of the higher rate increases and at the same time backhand a event that boasts 5,000 attendances. I think that would be poor taste in relation to the money invested and the return of community outcome. I think it's a sound ratio there, in my humble opinion. I'll play devil's advocate here and say, look, don't worry about the Apex running carols. Let's give it a rest for 2 years. Let's deal with the community uproar in why that went away, and then let's reinstate it. Apex are done, they're not going to help us out anymore, and let's do it with our staffing resources. All of a sudden, that event cost us $85,000, $100,000. You know, I understand the sentiment of looking where we can save money. Realistically, I just don't think this is it in this particular place. But I am glad that the conversations flowed through, and I'm glad the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor were able to meet with the group and really help articulate the great work that our service clubs do. I'm not taking away from the Apex group, but I extend that to all the service groups that actually contribute to the carols as well. So yeah, happy to support the agreement, and yeah, look forward to a 2024 carols evening moving into the year.
Councillor Kosh.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to support this motion tonight. Over a number of years I haven't, but I am now, mainly because I can see the good work that's happened between council and the club to look at the budget, and they've obviously genuinely looked at how to bring the budget down, because we're all trying to bring our expenses down, and you've demonstrated that you're doing the same. And I think that's a very good principle to spread across the community, to know that we have got real issues and we need to be reducing our expenditure as much as possible. And I congratulate you for that. So I'm happy to support it tonight. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councillor White.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy to support this motion as it stands. Yeah, I really want to thank the Apex Club and you guys for putting on such a fantastic event every year. And I think it's been said a few times, but what you do and the work you put in, if we were to provide that to a private company, or whether we were to do that in-house, our next item is going to look at in-house running events. We know how much more expensive that is. So to have a wide variety of service clubs within the town, but including the Apex Club, who actually deliver a range of fantastic events, but this one in particular, I think we would be silly to throw that away. And looking at currently, we're talking about a rate increase, and as Councillor Shank said, people want to get their bang for their buck, and I really think that the community are benefiting extremely out of this event, thanks to the Apex Club. And providing this further information, having that discussion with staff, and actually even committing yourselves to that $5,000 saving, I think is really fantastic. So I really appreciate you guys doing that. Thank you so much for providing that. I really appreciate it, and the community will appreciate it as well. When we're talking about money and cost cutting, it was sort of the idea is floated around, and it's right. The cost cutting and savings that we're looking at isn't going to be in the $35,000 for the Christmas carols. And to use the same quote from the report earlier about saving goals to be delivered across the year through efficiency reviews, emphasis on essential infrastructure renewal and upgrade, supported by future planning needs. That's the key part of our savings, and I think we're all aware of that. We all understand that, elected members and staff. That's what we're really looking towards. So yeah, very, very happy to support this motion. Having a look through the agreement too, Councillor Hennessy, I understand your concerns too, and that was something I missed when reading through the attachments. But looking through the track changes in the document, the only part that's changed from the agreement that was presented to us previously is that funding arrangement, as in the dollar figure to the $34,800 at the moment. So happy to leave it as is at the moment. And yeah, despite what you may read or hear in the community, I am a big fan of Christmas, and very much happy to see the Christmas parade return. Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, Deputy Mayor, you can wrap up the debate.
Yeah, look, I think we've had good discussion. It's, look, like we were saying about the tennis before, it's great when we can have groups that are proactive, doing a bunch of great stuff in the town. That is what we want. That's the reason behind, things that we do, like, the Fringe coming up is sort of, we want to start some things and then get some things going that the community supports and everyone comes together. And I think the carols are a great example of that. We had a public open forum earlier from the Academy of Dance. There's a whole range of groups, not just the Apex, who all get involved in making it happen, and I think that's what we want to see in our town.
The debate is now closed. I will put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you. So I'm going to move on to, thank you guys, thank you. Gawler Fringe, I'm on page 43 of 98. Gawler Fringe 224 review and 225 event. We're spending a total of $32,000. I think that's a much better figure. There's going to be something quite different in Apex Park, Gawler Civic Centre programs, activation of Walker Place. The Gawler Civic Centre and Apex Park are registered as Adelaide Fringe venues. You want to move that motion? Thank you. Do you wish to speak? Oh. What? I saw you first, and I'll see Councillor Hennessy can second. Is that okay?
No worries, Mayor. You're the chair.
Yeah, I'm the chair.
Well, I'm happy to move the motion, the officer's recommendation, and I really want to thank staff for their work. I think staff very much listened to the sentiment of the discussion that we had at the CCS meeting, and I'm really excited to see what's in the report. When we were looking, as we were previously talking about, at our staffing costs, as much as, you know, I'm sure our staff love putting on events in-house, it is quite an expensive endeavour when we're paying, you know, salaries for staff to run events in-house, which, don't get me wrong, is fantastic that we have such dedicated staff workforce and community department in particular to run those events. But when we were looking at, I guess, the cost-benefit analysis of the Walker Place event in particular, over running it for a few years, in my opinion, I don't think it was giving the greatest benefit to the community, to a large amount of members in the community. And what's being proposed instead of that, with that sort of family fun day afternoon in Apex Park, where we've got a larger capacity, where there's talk of food trucks, of other community groups, a bit more of a light-hearted atmosphere with a bigger capacity, I think it's really exciting. And I think what we need to do is we need to test this out. We need to see what it's going to look like next year. I can envision it being a big success, but, you know, I think repeating the same thing over and over again and then expecting different results, obviously that's not going to necessarily change anything. So to see this being to see the community sentiment flow through to elected members, for staff to listen and then put this in a recommendation, I think is fantastic. It shows that all the cogs in the wheel are turning together in this council, which is fantastic. So very much excited to see how this progresses and potentially being involved in some of those discussions with staff as we move forward. In regards to the other events as part of the Fringe, I think they're fantastic, and they've been around for a number of years now, and they're just getting higher and higher attendance. So, but in particular with the opening event to shift next year, I think the community will really get on board, and I look forward to, I guess, evaluating how that goes after the event. So happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hennessy, did you want? No. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, look, I mean, I've always enjoyed the Gawler Fringe opening day / opening weekend, but obviously when we're looking at cuts to make, I think this is a sort of big one that sticks out in the events section. I'd be interested to see what we can do at the Apex Park. I think, unfortunately, Walker Place has been a bit of a mixed bag in terms of actually activating it as a event space. It's always just a little bit of too much of a hassle with this and that. And I think Apex Park is going to be it's a great place where we hold a range of good events, and I'm happy to try this out for the upcoming year.
Thank you. So I've got a mover and a seconder. I'm going to open it up for discussion. Councillor Hennessy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I can't support this as it presently stands for a number of reasons. One, I'm very much aware that Walker Place has not, unfortunately through its design, it is difficult the gardens and the seating and whatever. I'm very happy to say that that's not actually working as we had hoped. However, and this has been discussed before, we have had, always on the Friday night, some form of fringe opening, and it has been designed to be a young adult type of start. So I would be preferring that we look at other venues, maybe the Civic Centre, maybe tied in with a presentation or something, which I think would also give us the savings we're looking for. Converting it and merging it in with the Fringe and the Park into Apex Park seems to me a really negative thing. We were doing a Fringe in the Park down at Baxton Reserve, is it Baxton's Reserve, down at Everston, and that was very well attended and very much appreciated by that part of Gawler that doesn't normally get any of our activities. To cancel that and bring it back to a family fun day in Apex Park, which we hold many other events in, seems like a bit of a backward step to me. And making it a family event rather than a young adult, I'm not terribly comfortable. So I would prefer to keep the Fringe and the Park Reserve going as it has, because it's been very successful every time we've helped it. And then I would be looking to have a report come back looking at some alternatives for a Fringe opening on the Friday night. Again, looking for savings so that we don't have to have all the security, the staff costs and whatever. But I think if we were able to find something, even if it was a performance that was done or something on a Friday night perhaps here, that might be better. So for those reasons I can't support it, and I was going to make an amendment, but I'm not sure whether I should do that now or come in later. What's your suggestion, Mayor? Make the amendment now?
Well, you could make the amendment now.
Okay, well my alternative amendment would be that we retain the Fringe and the Park at, sorry, I haven't got the name. What's the reserve down in Everston?
So you want a Part E? You want a Part E? I put a new Part 3 in, which, hang on, where are we? Requests council staff to investigate and report back to council on alternatives for a Gawler Fringe opening event on the Friday evening. So, yeah, sorry. Can you repeat those words
Yep.
again?
So in number 3, request that council staff investigate and report back to council on alternatives for a Gawler Fringe opening event on the Friday evening.
And that could be in the Civic Centre or somewhere.
I'll leave that open to staff, but yes, that's what I'm looking for, so that we make the same savings.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would take 2A. I would take...
well, you can't change the nature. Amendments are only minor.
Okay, well,
they're minor.
then I somehow want to change A to go back to being back to the Everston rather than Apex Park. Leave it in the... Hang on, I will get to it.
Well, I'm happy to
Acton
accept...
Street.
I'm happy to accept a motion without notice, bring it out as a separate motion, because if you change this, it changes the whole nature of this motion. Yeah, because the amendments are supposed to be slight wording changes. Yeah. I'm going to go to David. Have you finished?
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable with leaving that in, because that then adds an additional. We've got a Friday night opening, and then we've destroyed the Baxton Park Reserve Fringe in the Park event.
Yeah. So Baxton Street was very successful.
Absolutely, and we don't often hold events down there.
No.
So why are we removing it? Yeah. It just seems...
I'll go to David and ask him to make some comments. Yeah.
So through the chair, I just wanted to clarify a couple of points, Councillor Hennessy. So The historical fringe in the parks have not always been at Baxton Street Reserve. They actually deliberately move around from reserve to reserve around town to enable greater access for all of the community, and they're actually classified as a play in the park. Within the activation strategy, we still have a play in the park budget of $5,200 odd for the new financial year. So we'll still be doing play in the park activities like the Baxton Street Reserve during the year. In regards to a Friday night event, I agree with Councillor Hennessy in terms of providing an offering. We believe that that can be covered in point B, so 2B, Civic Centre program, including ticketed shows at the Civic Centre for a Friday night event. It would need to be ticketed because the Civic Centre has a capacity limit, but it doesn't need to be a charged event.
So you could add that there, Civic Centre...
It's within that point
Civic
B.
Centre program, including ticketed shows, and consider a Friday night event. Would that be comfortable for you? Would that be comfortable?
It would. Thank you.
So B, Gawler Civic Centre program, including ticketed shows, library and youth events. Consider a Friday night opening, Friday night event. Opening event. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I'll come to you very shortly. We'll just get the wording right. I'm happy with that amendment, but I need to check with Councillor White and Deputy Mayor Davies, and also the feeling of the room. So, are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable with that? Well, you could put a semicolon after events, a semicolon. Just put a semicolon. Consider a Friday night opening event. And consider a Friday night opening event. Okay. That makes better sense. Yes, it does. Okay, I'm happy with that, but Councillor White and Deputy Mayor Davies, are you comfortable with the changes to your motion? And I'd like to find out if the meeting is happy with the changes, if you can show a change of a show of hands. A show of hands. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry, Councillor Koch. Sorry, Councillor
I've got a question, Mayor.
Yes.
One of my biggest concerns always for the Friday night event was that there was alcohol there. And I didn't think that was good for a family event. And it then caused you needed the fences, security guard, everything. The cost was going up. Then the argument was, well, this is a young person's event, alcohol is good, not good. But there's alcohol is an element on the night. So I'm just wondering, for the Friday night event, would that include would it be an alcohol-free event or one that served alcohol?
Well, I'll defer to David Barrett, and because this is, I don't think we need to delve into alcohol, but David Barrett.
Through the Chair, Civic Centre performances generally have licensed activity and bar service through the James Martin Room. We would consider that opportunity for the opening night event, but there aren't the additional requirements around fencing and things because it's an indoor space.
Yeah, it's an indoor space. So we save a bit of money there. Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor White, do you want to wrap up the debate? Oh, sorry, Councillor Shanks, I didn't see you there.
No, that's okay. Yeah, look, I was sort of happy to feel out the officer's original recommendation, if I'm being honest. I think it's clear that the staff that run this event have come through and said, look, we don't necessarily not like the event at Walker's Place, but we think there's opportunity to grow. I think there was even an attempt to say, hey, let's look at the Apex Park as a location for our big 10-year. Let's have a look at that. Let's see how that runs. Unfortunately, that didn't get up at the time, and look, for one reason or another, it doesn't really matter at this point in time. But I do like the idea of allowing staff to follow through with their recommendations and seeing how this one runs, and then comparative data in relation to how the Friday night event ran. I, like Councillor Davies, don't mind stopping in the Friday event. I'm saddened to say that I haven't been able to make it for the last year or two, but one of the draw cards for me, and I'm sorry for admitting this, but it's going down there and catching up with a mate for a Friday beer, So that offering is an attraction. This particular Friday night event, coming to the Civic Centre or going down to my local pub, it's going to be a bit of a different vibe, a different sell, but not to say that it won't work. I'm all good for... But for this one cycle, I'd like to see how this one goes, to be honest, and then also benefit from the savings, and then compare the pair, and then if there is a hybrid model that comes out of that, absolutely, let's have a look at that. Let's talk about that through the CCS committees and really go that way. So begrudgingly, I'm not going to support this version of it. If we get back to the original, I'm happy to support that one.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Shanks. You want to speak? Thank you.
Support this. The fringe has evolved over the years. Originally we had it in a laneway, and we tried to encourage other venues that didn't happen, but now we have other venues. We went to Walker Place, and that was over 3 days. But what we found was on the third day, when it was hot, people didn't come in. We then had it indoors over 3 days, and in fact that actually worked really well. People actually really enjoyed it, especially on the Saturday and Sunday when it was really hot out there. Then we just went to the Walker Place one night, which I think is quite expensive. So I was never overly keen about the one night because of the infrastructure that you got to put in place and all the security. I think at Apex Park, I think that will be good, and I actually like the addition of the Friday night, because I think that's really important. That Friday night is a nice night, and I mean, I used to go to pubs a lot and go to bands, so it would be the same vibe as that. So I think that would be good. So I'm quite happy to support that. Thank you.
Okay.
Support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Samble.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. All the comments are good. Like Councillor Hennessy, I agree with you there, and I also agree with you, Councillor Koch, how the Walker Place is not a venue for what it costs to have it there. And for 2 years, I said no alcohol. There's 2 hotels next door. Do we support our businesses? No, we put a bar in there. We don't want them to go across the road and everywhere. That's crap. That's not really proper. And the other thing that for years, for any older people in the room would know, we worked hard and eventually got the Lions Club to build a fantastic rotunda up in Pioneer Park. We've just been praising the Apex Club for what they've done in a great Carols event we've just now approved for one to happen again this year. What is wrong with having the opening event in Pioneer Park? We have the rotunda there where we can have Crafty do his jig if he wants to, or whatever it may be, but certainly a lot less cost. And surely there's enough power to plug in a piano accordion up there. So I'd like to see some changes. I'm certainly going to vote for these changes here. There is one question that has been asked to me by a number of people, to maybe David, and that the MAP event, was that our planned event, or was it that an individual person, which Martin, being a very promoted person in our town, because there was only 86 people there. It was a fantastic event, and I couldn't praise it enough. Shut your ears, Mick. It was the best afternoon tea I've ever tasted in my life, and being served by senior staff at a cost of $940. I just wondered about that particular one when you consider 700 approximately people attended because they were coming and going, but $16,000 to put on a fringe event for one night is just a bit too much. So I'm going to support this and have some changes. I just wonder whether the question, was the MAP event a planned event or was it an individual committee event?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So through the chair, the MAP event was programmed by Martin Johnston himself. It was originally intended to be at a local pub. However, when the Governor accepted to attend the MAP event, he requested to move it to the Civic Centre, and council staff supported that initiative. The reason we had senior staff attend the event and serve the lovely catering to those that attended was because that was a more cost-effective outcome than it would have been to have our standard officers come on double time on that weekend. So it was actually a better outcome financially, but it was a supported event. It wasn't our program event.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer, David Barrett. Any further discussion? Yes, yes.
Through you, Mayor, the current fringe,
Yeah.
am I right to say that it is actually catered alcohol-wise by the Prince Albert Hotel, historically?
Yeah, Prince Albert Hotel.
Yeah, so it's not Town of Gawler.
No,
we are actually
no.
calling one of our local pubs.
Yeah, one of the local pubs
Yeah, thanks for that.
actually sets up a stall there.
Cheers. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Lorna.
Thank you for that. I also like the idea of it going into the Apex Park out the back there. The atmosphere and that make things a lot better. I was just wondering if we put, in point B there, if we put consider Gawler Civic Centre program, Gawler Civic Centre and Apex Park for events on a Friday night opening event. Would that allow us to consider both venues? Sorry?
It's we've got the Apex Park one on the Saturday, and consider a Friday night opening event in the Civic Centre. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I just prefer to go on Friday night. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Oh, it's more of a question at the moment, so yeah,
all right.
That's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you very much for those comments. Councillor Wyatt, would you like to wrap up the debate?
Thanks, Mayor. Just to address a few concerns from members, I believe the key cost-cutting measure that staff have worked on is the removal of alcohol from this event, which reduces the fences, security guards, extra licences, additional toilets being at Walker Place. So I think if we were, the key reason why, from my understanding, that the costs have been cut in this new proposed event is because there's no alcohol at an external park, for example, Apex Park or Walker Place or Pioneer Park. I understand Councillor Hennessy's sentiment because that was a concern or is a concern to me that the existing event really does cater for an audience that we don't generally cater to. So I understand your sentiment completely. I think for me, and you might be in the same boat, is that the current event was just too expensive to run it that way. I am in favour of exploring, and as we've got up there, considering how that could work on a Friday night. But I think the key part in that, what is up there at the moment, is consider. Staff will have a look and see whether it's feasible or what could be achieved. We've obviously given a limited budget for this. So if it's unfeasible or not feasible to run an event, I think they would report back to us and say this is why, or this is the budget we have, what can we do with it? So at the moment, I'm happy to support what's up there. Councillor Shanks talked about, I'd rather see the original motion. I think the key part at the moment is it is consider. It's not saying we're definitely going to have a Friday night event. It's saying staff are going to look into whether this is feasible within budget constraints and what we can actually do within the Civic Centre, for example, and then report back and say, hey, this is what we found, this is what we could do, this is what we can't do, because that, for me, is really the crucial part. We've said, hey, the fringe, we need to cut the costs. It's too expensive for what it is at the moment. And staff have said, yep, this is what we've come up with. And then we've all gone back and said, okay, we want all of this too. Hang on, that doesn't quite add up. So for me, what I think, we've talked about cost cutting, we've talked about different audiences. For me, it's not about the cost cutting, it's about providing the best sort of community event to the most community members possible. And for me at the moment, that afternoon Fringe in the Park idea, which is still just a concept at this point in time. It will be explored in more detail, I presume, as we move forward. For me, that really does provide the best community benefit for the most amount of members. I think exploring what we can do on the Friday night, looking at the other aspects of the Fringe that have already been successful is really good as well. We need to explore that. But the point I'm coming from, I guess, is we spent $16,000 just for the opening event this year to cater for that small amount of people. Now we're looking at spending this amount of money for the entire Fringe. But when we look at that event in Apex Park, we could cater for 5,000 people potentially. So I think we need to explore this while also keeping in mind, you know, we need to evaluate after next year's Fringe and go what worked, what didn't work. Some of those ideas that Councillor Samble pointed out, that Councillor Lorna, Hennessy, Shanks have all said, I think that is open for exploration after we see this event. But I think we need to continue down the staff's original investigation and thinking, but I am willing for them to consider moving forward what that Friday night event will look like, as Councillor Hennessy's alluded to, for all of those reasons about catering for that sort of discrete audience that we don't normally cater to. So all in all, happy to support this and hope, members, I've got your support in seeing this progress and exploring these changes to make the event even better than it has been.
The debate is now closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we move on to our information reports. I think we might have a break until 9:30, and we'll have a 10-minute break from 9:20 to 9:30, and we'll come back then. Oh. I saw it. Let's get moving. Let's move along. We've got information reports, and we have 3. We've got a Civic Centre quarterly update. We've got an ABC Hub Inc. update, and we've got a Business Innovation Hub quarterly update. We can move these en bloc. Shall we do that? Councillor Hennessy?
Yeah, I'm happy to move it en bloc. And I'll come back with some comments on one of them, please, if I can.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
no problem. We can discuss any or all of them. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor? That notes the ABC update. So we've moved it en bloc, moved by Councillor Hennessy and seconded by Deputy Mayor Davies. Sure, absolutely. Brian?
It's only a trivial thing, but I'm just wondering that throughout the notes and everything we've got, it just says the club. Could it be noted that it's GVV and Classic Vehicle Club, please?
Yes,
It's only trivial,
yes.
but it's important.
It is important. It is important. It is important. Okay, so I'm going to put that motion. We've got a mover and a seconder, and I'm going to put that motion en bloc. No, we're going to move the motion en bloc, and then we're going to discuss all the different things. Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder. You can ask questions. Yep.
Sorry, I don't want to butt in between the mover and seconder here, but was there comments that they wanted to make on the items? And are we debating about the items now? Or?
Yeah, we're debating the items now.
All right, no worries. Again, I didn't want to push in front of the mover and seconder if this is the way it's going to go, but with respect, I'm sorry, but I'll just make a couple of quick points. Look, it is good to see some progress in regards to the ABC Hub. I think it is unfortunate that we're seeing some frustrations spill out into the chamber, and with all due respect to the car club members here, this he said, she said that ended up getting played out in the public open forum isn't really our business in regards to the club politics. But I think what it does highlight is a level of frustration that the club has felt in relation to a journey that they've been on for nearly a decade. And yes, it is good that they're getting a location and we're getting to the end of that journey. Should have it taken this long? I don't believe so, to be honest. We are lucky we have an active local MP that was able to come in and pull these clubs together, being the Apex, the Black Ops and the Vintage Car Club, to say, hey, here's a solution on state government land. It is good that council were able to partner in the end and say how they could assist. But this journey has been a pretty big frustration for the club, regardless of where you may sit on whatever side of whatever minority or majority groups are happening within that club. I'm not a member myself, and to be honest, it's not my business or my place to take sides in this. I am glad that we are coming to a outcome now, the resolution of what that looks like on the club sense and the appetite of the club, I think is something that needs to be monitored throughout the club, and I'm saddened to see that this has gotten to the level that it has. So I wish the club all the best, and all the members that have committed their time and effort to try to get an outcome and house the club, because realistically, regardless of which side you sit on it, that's what you've all been working towards. So all that aside, I'd like to touch on the Business Innovation Hub report. Look, I know that it was a move of the past chamber to say, look, we need to pull this one apart, and we need to pull it out, and we need to look at it, and we need to monitor it. I get it. I get the sentiment where I read it loud and clear. You want council staff to do anything different than what we're currently doing. We need FTE to do it. I get it. Realistically, I must be honest, I don't want you managing the business hub. I think we've got some core business things that I'd love to be able to focus on. And that's why I've always pushed or always been talking about relying on our Gawler Business network, and in lack of any other network that we have a close connection to, Gawler Business Development Group has always been the one that I've been saying, hey, how are they looking at? What are they talking about? Now I'm reading the report and I'm saying, look, yeah, I'm reading it, and with all due respect, it's other balls in the Gawler Business Development Group's court. Well, I'm sure if I go back to the Gawler Business Development Group court, they're going to turn around and go, well, we gave what we could give. And there's just this back and forth stalemate. At some point in time, we need to be looking at this realistically, because even the surpluses that we see in these reports, they're superficial, because by their own admission of the report, it's too hard to actually split out the electrical costs and the outgoings, because it's in the conglomerate that is the Civic Centre operation costs. So it's not a surplus when you take into account, because in that aspect, I would turn around and go, cool, where's the surplus going? And all you tell me is it's being absorbed in the operations. It's all good, I know that, but I shouldn't have to point it out. So when we get to a point, because right now I bang on and bang on and bang on, and I know I've got people that disagree with me here, but we are a commercial landlord at best. If we want to be a commercial landlord, then we should be actually making a proper profit, being a commercial landlord, but also abiding by the commercial neutrality as to make sure that we're not competing with our ratepayers either. Or we look at the space as an overall, and we look at the different modelling and whatever. Now, I'm happy to accept that the Gawler Business Development Group have been going through their modelling as well, and that's not David and the team's fault either. The new generation of how the Gawler Business Development Group looks and transitioning, all good. But we do need to get to a point where we put some tangible things on the table that we may go out to market with sooner rather than later, because again, it's that more of the same. And I don't think we're in a position to turn around and say, let's give some more staff resources and then put that in the portfolio that's already stacked of council staff, because that's not a space that I think we need to be in. So yeah, there's my comments on those two reports.
Thank you. Any other comments? Deputy Mayor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hennessy. Sorry, Councillor Hennessy.
I'm just more visible.
You're speaking.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I thought we were waiting to make comments, but I'd like to thank the many members of the CVVC and V Club. Is that how we say it, Brian? For turning up tonight. I think we had 19. I am also pleased that the report came back and that we are now very well aware of the club's feelings about where the cooperative venture that they're in. Yes, things take time, but I think where we know that they are now is on the verge of success, and I appreciate the members coming up and reassuring us and giving us their point of view. So sometimes we can have squeaky wheels, and all organisations have differences of opinions amongst their members, but I appreciate what we've heard tonight. The other comments I was going to make is on the Civic Centre report, which I think's, again, full of good news. And a couple of things that sped out to me is the wonderful addition to our art collection that's come into the Civic Centre, the creation of the video and podcasting, which I think is starting to take off, the youth with their promotion through Jess McColl and her TV program BTS with Jess, which aired on TV the other night, gave us, really made the work that is occurring within the youth centre really impressive. And last but not least, credit goes to the staff who got a more than $12,000 grant requiring no cash component for the restoration of one of the items in the Gawler Heritage Collection. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor, I'll go to you next, Brian.
So I'd like to speak to 11.2, the Civic Centre update. Firstly, just congratulating the Cultural Heritage Centre people on their successful display that I believe is closed now in preparation for the launch, which I think is next week, Wednesday, the 1st of May at 5:30. There'll be a launch of Threads of Life, the new exhibit, which is about stories of births, deaths and marriages in Gawler. So definitely take a look at that one if you get the opportunity. The cafe, it was unfortunate. In this case, nothing to do with the actual operations of this cafe, but the person who was running the cafe has closed down their Poetic Justice Cafe and moved into a different line of business, and wish her the best with it. The youth space is always going well. They have had various events. There's been a film showing of all of their films, which I love to mention because I make a special appearance as a ghost in one of the films.
You've got a ghost?
I'm a ghost in one of the...
What type of ghost are you? What type of ghost are you?
I'm haunting the Civic Centre, actually. So, just definitely worth having a look at some of the programs that our youth are doing, like their film projects and drama, and the youth band, which is also featured on BTS with Jess. I'm not sure if it's aired yet, but we saw it at the preview screening, and it was quite a good segment. But yeah, just wanted to shout out a few of the things that are going well with our Civic Centre.
Thank you. Any other comments? Brian Sample, Councillor Sample.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. I'd just like to say, to do with the car club, Andrew, thank you so much for you and motivating the staff into the movement with the President and Gavin and yourself, Mayor Karen, and David, who have been so very supportive. There is one area, Council employs a grant officer, and I think you probably will know, with the plans that have been suggested by the car club, is that we will need to go for a couple of grants. So if there could be some relationship with, the car club and our grants officer, maybe a meeting occasionally and things like that on direction, I'm sure the car club would be very, very happy with being able to put their hooks around it, because I'm noticing now that the government is really getting out there and supporting clubs a lot more now, through some of in between the rubbish you read in some of the papers, the advertiser and that. But it looks like I've got a real big challenge, and so has the car club, to get our Councillor Shanks to buy a vintage car, because he's indicated he's not interested. So we better get him out in the car, I think, one of the old Dodge, says it can't go too far. But certainly, I think it's great that the support has been given in what you've done, Andrew, and also the staff.
Councillor Lorna.
Thank you for that, Mayor. Just want to also touch base onto the car club there, or the Classic Vehicle Club, and we'll try to get the whole name in there like you asked before. So I reckon it's very good that we've actually come to, well, sort of getting close to a conclusion of what's actually going on there. It is disappointing that there's been some words out in the background, and I don't, really think it's appropriate to use the platform to oust people here on a public stadium. I can probably put to that point too, some of these squeaky wheels have been involved in this club for many, many, many years, and maybe things aren't quite right what they need to. But I really hope that everyone's getting together and, for the good of the club going forwards. They've got a great area there. They've got a lot of other local groups that can get involved and all enjoy the area together. So I'm pleased that it's happened. Good on Tony Piccolo for bringing it all together, and the council putting the rest of their work into it as well. So, and the car club continuing to work together to hopefully it all comes for their benefit. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Koch.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I just want, with the car club, I won't go through the name, I'd just like to thank the representative.
I beg your pardon?
Just with the deputation tonight from the car club, I'd like to thank Mr Frost for his presentation.
Yeah.
I thought the email we got was inappropriate, and I'm glad a lot of those issues were cleared up. Just on the development there, the ABC development, I've added up all the costs that we've actually spent so far. Are there going to be any more costs involved for council?
I'll defer to Andrew to answer that question.
Through the chair, in fact, that's what I was just discussing with the mayor just then. Just going back to the report itself, just for the record, there's a couple of matters which information that wasn't available to Dave Barrett when he wrote his report. So just for the record, we had the initial preliminary site inspection by our geotechnical consultants. That was $5,800. That wasn't referred to in the report. On top of that, there was a soil and soil vapour assessment, because there's some initial assessment indicating there was something previously there, and that was $11,300. So if you add that up, it's about $16,000, $17,000 on top of that figure. So best part of 40 when you add all those elements. In terms of future costs, obviously there's the cost of doing delivery on the ground, the assessment council does, but there are fees attached to that in terms of how that gets delivered. In terms of the cost for the developer themselves, there'll be obviously the infrastructure delivery costs, but I don't see any additional cost at this point in time for council staff. But yeah, if we do, then we'll come back to you on that, but I don't expect any at this stage.
Thank you. I think that addressed your question. Any further discussion? I might go to Councillor Hennessy to wrap up. Oh, Councillor White, sorry.
Thanks, Mayor, and apologies for butting in before. I just didn't want to miss our opportunity to discuss. I also just want to echo my thanks to the Gawler Veteran Vintage and Classic Vehicle Club for coming here this evening to speak. And not only the Car Club, but also the Black Ops and Apex Club that have obviously all come together for this great initiative. I think it's fantastic. It has been many years and potentially decades in the making, but to see it finally happening, to see it on paper, and understanding it's sitting with Crown at the moment, so there's just a few more months to wait, and then we'll see some boots on the ground action, I think is really, really exciting. So congratulations to the three clubs involved. Also, thanks to Mr Piccolo, the staff that were involved, and other parties. I think it's really exciting, really, really exciting venture, and I think coming to see it, I understand there has been a few setbacks, but seeing it come to fruition and actually seeing something, I think, in the coming months will be really, really exciting for our community. And supporting what is three really fantastic clubs that do a lot of great work for our community, not just within their clubs, but, for example, the Car Club supporting the supporting the Swap Meet Day for it as an example. These are clubs that do give back to our community. The Apex Club and all the work they do as well. So I think a gift back to them that has been supported by many different parties, I think is very well deserved, and look forward to seeing it continue to come towards the end of its progression and see it come into action.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Hennessy, would you like to wrap up the debate, or are you happy for me to put the motion? The debate is now closed. I will put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I'll just go. So now I'm on page 86 of 98, recommendations from committees. Recommendations from the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee, meeting held on the 11th of April. Business case, staff resources, Gawler Cultural Heritage Centre. Recommendation. You want to move that way, Councillor Hennessy? Yes?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I do. And on behalf of Councillor Koch and I, who sit on this committee, we asked that, I asked that the business case be presented to all elected members, and the email came through today, just to point out some of the outstanding work that is actually happening through our Cultural Heritage Centre, what they're doing for cultural tourism in this town, and the fact that they are feeling the strain. They're working, one of the areas that they have really worked well is as a resource for other parts of council to use in terms of, a whole range, planning, engineering. And so while we have got a difficult budget situation, I ask that people do bear notice of that business case and keep it in mind when we are considering staffing resources. So thank you.
Do you want to second it? Do you want to speak? No? Okay, thank you. So, moved by Councillor Hennessy, seconded by Councillor Koch. Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Permission to publish St George copybooks, Barber family. You want to move that way? Seconded by Councillor Hennessy. So moved by Councillor Koch, seconded by Councillor Hennessy. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, 87 of 98, permission to publish Ada Wordy file. How do we wish to proceed? Do you want to move that way? Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Davies. Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Gawler Heritage Collection Management Plan update. How do we wish to proceed? You move that way. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lorna, thank you very much. Just put that up. I beg your pardon. It was Councillor Koch and Councillor Lorna. Yeah. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor Sharon. On this matter, there must be some fantastic stuff that's been collected. When does the general public able to go and see this collection, and where is it based?
Well, it's based down in the lower ground floor, and there's archives down there. There's also in Williston, there's a storage facility. So, yeah, that's where both of them.
It's just the question's been asked a number of times, you know. It sounds like they're really going well and there's a lot of upgrading and so forth, but, you know, how does one get to see it? Because today, the two people that set up the telephone display are now pulling it down, and there's another new display going in very shortly. But as with a lot, there's only these two gentlemen that are pulling it down, and would you believe they're walking up the street with one of these mobile, with the whole stuff on the footpath going up the street, and it's a little bit hard to be able to get from, because there's no volunteers. So I just wondered, you know, where do people get to see some of this stuff, or do they have to make an appointment?
Some of the new collection will be on display, so I'm assuming that with the new exhibition we'll have items from the Heritage Collection displayed. But people can go down there and research different aspects of the collection. I think that's a fabulous outcome. So, yeah, if you hear of anybody who wants to have a look at, they can go down there and actually potentially research some items in the collection. So, recommendation. Councillor Lorna, it was the other way around. It was Councillor Koch and Councillor Lorna. Sorry. Thank you. So I'll put that motion. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. A collection acquisitions update March 2024. Recommendation that adopts the recommendation from the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee for item 7.3 at the committee meeting held on 11th of April. Moved by Councillor Hennessy, seconded by Councillor Koch. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page. One more. Notes the resolution at the committee meeting held. Notes the Cultural Heritage Centre budget update, 31st of March. Moved by Councillor Hennessy, seconded by Councillor Lorna. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Recommendations from the Infrastructure and Environmental Services Committee meeting held on the 9th of April. Gawler Growth Framework 246 in response from Planning Commission. Did you want to move that, Deputy Mayor? Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Solomon. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Schomberg Drive speed limit review. Deputy Mayor has moved it, seconded by Councillor Solomon. Yes, you can. You may.
I'm going to speak against this, and I'm going to speak against it because I want the community to know where I stand on the issue. At the meeting, I asked a question about non-frangible elements in roadways, in particular trees. Now, the traffic engineer, Richard Fringbong, said he had some information. He sent it to us. So I don't know whether we all read it, but I did. Yeah. Now, I actually went out and did some measurements, etc., etc., etc. And my view is that the tree's a little bit too close at 65. But I just want to read just the opening statement in that document. It talks about the background of why they design roads, and it's talked about us. The OEDC has approved, when it comes to designing roads, the SAFE system for designing roads. And it said a SAFE system recognises human factors and human frailty and the need to provide a forgiving engineering systems as part of shared responsibilities. And then our state government has accepted that as well. When I go through the document, there's a little graph that looks at the chances of fatalities when you hit a non-frangible, you hit a tree, for example. At 50 k's, you've got about 40% chance of a fatality. At 60 k's, it's 75%. At 70 k's, it's 100% chance of a fatality. Now, given that people are driving over 65 kilometres an hour already, you're probably looking at a 70% chance of fatality if you hit a tree. That's just the reality. So my primary concern is to ensure the safety of our residents. And I know people are getting hammered by people ringing up and everything else, but we were told, we read in the report that people take visual cues on how fast they go, and they look at the road and they think it's a rural road, so they want to drive faster. But in reality, it's a 60k road, and it's being signposted at 50 to give you that, to provide a safe, I reckon, a safe system, because it takes into account human factors and human frailty. So it creates a buffer. So although it's designed for 60, it's signposted at 50 to give you the buffer. Now, I'm concerned that we're taking away that buffer and we may be putting people at risk. So I can't vote for this because, in all consciousness, I cannot vote for something that I think is going to put people at risk by doing this. And just by even accepting that this is a good idea, that sends a message that we think it's okay to actually have cars travelling at a higher speed when the risk to them is actually quite high. So I cannot support it. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a mover and a seconder. I'm going to put that... Yes, you'd like to speak? Hang on, there we go, Brian.
Right. The other day I was up at Springwood there and watching with the new lights that are up there now. It's quite an interesting diversion. People are coming out of Springwood and going down a loop road the other side and coming out halfway down the hill. And I went down and I watched these cars, the way they came down and went around, because they haven't opened the gateway to operate the lights. No. But while I was there, this huge semi-trailer came in with a huge roller on it. Anyway, he pulled up, so not like Nathan, he's not interested in cars, but I went up and said, how much, what does this weigh with this on? About 70 tonne.
That's right.
I said, so there's no restrictions for you to come down this road? No. He said, there's no load limit on the road.
No load limit. When
are we going to do something that we try for our community to get the speed limit to go to 80? And it's still 50. Nothing's moved, but a truck carrying 70 tonne can do so much damage to a road. I just don't understand the ethics of the way the government thinks. I'm not sure whether Andrew's got any comments.
No, I think we'll keep moving. I'll put that motion. Oh, yep.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I do like cars. I hope Councillor Samble will donate one of his many to me so I can prove how much I love them. But just shelving that for a moment, the recommendation, I think it was a good conversation in the IS, and if you recall, members, there was a bit of conversation around the cost that was a little bit ambiguous, and I think members were a little bit uncomfortable with that. At the time, it was varied to say, look, that high-level estimate wasn't, it was actually not talking about, hey, spend this and we solve that. It was talking about infrastructure upgrades that are a part of that road's natural organic growth. And in the meantime, it may also have the opportunity at looking at the opportunities in raising the speed limits. I don't necessarily disagree with putting ratepayers at risk is a bad thing, and none of that I'm going to even touch at this point in time, because the investigations that come throughout this process, the way that I'm interpreting it, is what we are saying, hey, if we do these upgrades and it does position ourselves to be able to look at this other thing as well, let's have a look at that. How is it going to link to our greater road network, and how is it going to assist with the feeding of the other parts of our region out of our main street moving forward? How does that tie into that? How is it usable in relation to going down that way or the main street at this point in time when the speed limits are the way that they're set? Why are we receiving all these frustrations? Why are we in the debate over what 60 roads look like, what 80 roads look like, what 50 roads look like, when we all know common sense prevails 9 times out of 10? But regardless of any of those opinions, the direction that was set and being looked at is, hey, this road is a major piece of infrastructure that we charge, or that we allow nearly $500,000 per year in depreciation for, and it's going to grow and it's going to serve as a piece of infrastructure that we're going to need now and into the future. There's going to have to be some investment made. What does that look like, and what other things are we able to leverage? I'm happy with how the officer's recommendation changed, and I absolutely don't think Richard Frimpong meant any malice intent with the messaging that might have been misinterpreted one way or another last time. That said, that cost is non-existent at this point in time. It's focusing on the investigation moving forward. So I think, whether or not you agree with speed limits and trees and risk of death and the like, why wouldn't we investigate all those things and actually have a data-based argument opposed to an opinion?
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Davies, are you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Street naming. So we have a street naming request for new street names and for consultation for councils. Yep, happy to move Councillor Samble. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga. If there's no further discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Northern Adelaide Waste Management Authority Cash Advance Facility. You want to move that way, Councillor White. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga. So Councillor White moved and Councillor Vallelonga seconded. If we can put that up, thank you. Yep.
Sorry, I just want to make sure we're doing the process right. Do we have any conflicts of interest? I know it's late, but we do have to do it.
We've got 2 conflicts of interest. So you've got to declare your conflicts. You've got to declare your conflicts. So I'll start with Councillor Lorna and then I'll go to Councillor Solomon. So you go first, Councillor Lorna. That's right.
Yeah, I declare a material conflict of interest on, which one was it? I've just lost it now, sorry. 8.4, thank you, and I will deal with that from leaving the room because I'm told I have to.
Thank you very much. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to declare a material conflict and leave the room. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll allow them to leave the room. So we've got a mover and we've got a seconder. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Oh, do you want to speak against? You want to speak to it?
Yeah, well, I'm going to speak against. I'm going to be consistent in what I said at the IES meeting.
Yes.
It's a principled position. I think Norma has overcommitted itself financially, and this does not demonstrate financial restraint. And I'm just concerned about the future of Norma. So I won't be voting for this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Can you please bring them back in? Stobie Poles, painting policy. Public art policy. You want to move that way? We'll just allow the elected members to come back and sit down. So you want to move that way. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. You don't want to speak. Do you want to speak?
Only to say that last week my wife and I spent a few days over all around the Yorke Peninsula. I didn't walk like Councillor Koch did, but we drove around and it was quite interesting. All of the towns over there have got murals on their poles, especially Port Wakefield, absolutely fantastic. And Kyle Armstrong is a fantastic mural when you go through on the hotel there. But I've taken something like about 30 photos, so I don't know.
You can send them to me and I can share them.
Yeah, I mean, you can be shown at a meeting. I just wonder whether you want to see them, because it's interesting at different towns. Ardrossan, for instance, it's different themes they have in the towns, you know, sort of thing. I'm not sure what we could have for Gawler. There must be some theme. I'm sure Ethan will work out something that we can have on every one of our poles. And Mick can put Harley Davidsons on them, and Jack can put Chimeras, you know, so we just need a theme to go. But I've got these photos, and if I can give them to somebody, they came out all right.
Thank you. Recommendation, who would like to move that way? You. Oh, Hennessy Vallelonga, thank you. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. That the Infrastructure and Environmental Services notes the Climate Emergency Action Plan Implementation Update Report. And Tim actually gave a fantastic presentation on Friday. I loved it. Loved it. Yeah, it was great. And he got lots of questions afterwards as well. So lots of people were very interested in what he had to say. So, yeah. Okay, so who would like to move this motion? Deputy Mayor and Councillor White. Thank you. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Yes?
Mayor, can I move the motion that we extend the timeline? It looks like we're getting fairly close to our closure.
That would be lovely. Moved by Councillor Hennessy, seconded by Councillor Samball, that we move that the meeting be extended to 11 o'clock. Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. External bodies report, there are none. Questions on notice, there are none. Questions without notice? Yes?
Just a one regarding our agendas, Mayor. The council member attendance reports seem to have fallen off our agenda.
Yeah, they have.
Just wondering
Where's that? Why is that? Why has that been moved? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not in charge of the agenda. Andrew is in charge of the agenda. Yeah. There is there, 18. It's there. It's there. It's there. With all due respect, yeah. So, questions without notice. Thank you for that question. Motions on notice. You've got the floor, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, look, this is the result of a meeting that was had with the residents, with the mayor, and with Wendy, and it was quite a worthwhile meeting. There, I summarise it in the preamble, but basically they're residents who've sort of been hard done by with a development that didn't give them a proper playground, and now we have a blank spot in there. So just basically saying that this needs to be a priority because currently that area is not equipped with playground facilities, basically.
With they were really respectful and engaging, weren't they? And they wanted to help. They wanted to help and state what type of playground they wanted, etc., etc., etc. And we've sent them some information in that regard because what they have down there is a few sticks and cement, and they've got lots of young families down there, and it really doesn't cut it. It really doesn't cut it. So, and the developer promised them a playground, they promised them a dog park, and we're focusing on the playground, clearly. And they're very interested in feeding back around the playground strategy, and yeah, they feel like they've been left out. That's how they feel, and so yeah, it was quite a constructive, wasn't it, Wendy? It was quite a constructive discussion, and they were so respectful, and yeah, they were just beautiful people. They were just beautiful people. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, that was my impression. Anyway, so you've moved the motion, Deputy Mayor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Vallelonga. Yes.
I'd like to speak to this. I mean, I know people put pressure and yet political pressure, but I just get concerned that political pressure outweighs good policy. And I think if you look at what's happened, you know, what happened there with the development, it was a water retention area because and there was concerns about mitigating the peak flows into the Gawler River when there was a flood. And we had a big discussion at council when it happened, and we had one member who actually lived there, and he actually, talked about how he was on a boat and everything else. So it was actually a mitigation. It was mitigation. I mean, I walked around it today with my dog, and there's some beautiful open space with native planters, etc. And I think it's actually quite a nice safe space for children cycling. I mean, you've got shelter, water, and the sitting area, and in particular, you've got a really good example of nature play. It's a really good example of nature play. So you've got the built form, and also you've got the natural form, because you've got a whole lot of little riverlets, and you've got stuff and everything else. So I'm just concerned that we all of a sudden have to have swings and all the whiz-bang everything, when you've actually got a really nice, sustainable playground there, which, you know, would, for all intents and purposes, does serve a really good purpose, not only for flood mitigation, but also for recreation. It's a big open space. I'm concerned that, you know, we're all of a sudden, you know, that we have a hierarchy for our playground provision, and all of a sudden something's going to jump up a bit higher and everything else. All of a sudden everybody wants everything, which is...
They won't
Yeah,
want
but I mean,
everything.
we get that constantly. I mean, we had it at one estate where we had a lot of pressure from the members, and they wanted, you know, age-appropriate equipment for their children, you know, and then probably more and more, you know, it's just, we can't have everything everywhere because it's just not, we just can't afford it. And also we have got a new development happening down there on the other side of Jack Cooper Drive. So I'm just wondering whether you'd be actually doubling up on playgrounds that, you know, really close to each other. Because you've got one playground which is actually providing, I think, quite a good amenity, and you know, because it's a really good example of nature play, I think it's actually a triumph, really, compared to other nature play facilities that I've seen and ones that I've been involved with to develop, and this one's really, really good. So, yes, okay, it'll probably get up and people will probably have to, you know, we'll talk about it, but I'm concerned that political pressure overruns good policy, where we should have a hierarchy of what our parks are. So I'm a bit in two minds whether I support this or not. Thank you.
Shanks. Oh, thank you. Thank you for those comments, Councillor Koch.
Just a question through you first, Mayor, if I could. If we were to go back in time and we had a playground policy that helped inform a development of such nature, would have the outcome been what the outcome is now, or would have the policy helped us actually identify the opportunity and work with the developer of what is acceptable here in the town of Gawler with our hierarchy of playground control?
I think that if we'd had a whole of town playground strategy, inclusive playground strategy, that would have helped. Because what we've got now is we've got sticks, and I don't agree with because what this community wants is they want something to play on. They want something to, and so we've sent them information, haven't we? And they're coming back, and they're going to pick 2 or 3, So do you want to make some comments, Wendy?
So through you, Mayor. So the place-based strategy, which is going to come to Council in June, really addresses a lot of what Councillor Koch has just addressed as concerns, and certainly addresses what Councillor Shanks is suggesting we need to ensure that as we build as new developments are built, we put the right playground in the right place, so we don't end up with 2 opposite each other across each other from a road, and the size of the development has the right size play space put into it as well. So there's a hierarchy of play spaces and a very well categorised list of what would go into each type of play space. There's indicative budgets in that play space strategy. It's listed out the next 15 years of investment, both in terms of renewal of what we have and where new may need to go. And the Coopers Rise area does actually feature in that list in the first few years. So I think this motion on notice actually aligns that quite well. I'm going to say, particular to this point, and this is where managing the disappointment of what comes through in terms of developer-delivered play elements. Within the place-based strategy, we've actually got a developer guideline, and that sets the clear way forward of what will be expected from developers in terms of the various classifications, the budgets, the annual indexing of that, and the options within developer to do or council to do. But the strategy, again, itself identifies the new locations. So I don't want to talk too much about the development across the road from Coopers Rise because we're in negotiation on some of that at the moment, but we are 100% cognisant of what we are driving to go in or not in that area, given what will go around it within a 10-15 minute walk for members of community all around there. So I really do think that the place-based strategy is advancing us strategically and importantly in that space.
Yep. Councillor Shank.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Wendy, for that clarification. I think it is really, really important to acknowledge that work because, Councillor Koch, I don't disagree in regards to reactional spending. One of the paths that you talked about was the Aspire Estate one. Now, the Aspire Estate was a budget bid, and even just trying to get an investigation through to say there was safety concerns around bodies of water and then also in regards to what was then delivered and at the age-appropriate definition spilled out of that at the time. That was another constructive conversation that we benefited from with staff coming out there, but again, that was reactional. And if you recall, it actually first came up as a budget bid of like 250 grand, which then forced me to price it and then put in another budget bid of $40,000. Thankfully, staff at the time and how that all worked saw an opportunity to pair that together with some other works that were happening in the time as well, and pulled in some budget that actually resulted in a better outcome that yes ticked some boxes on some political pressure that we might have been receiving at the time, but bigger picture as well. So. I don't disagree with what you're pointing out here, but again, those reactions are going to keep on repeating themselves unless we actually do have these engagement processes that feed back into our strategy, that feed into the little book we want to be able to give our developers and go, this is what we expect.
That's right.
Give us anything else and piss off, realistically. And from that strategy, we're going to be able to then start talking about depreciation of those assets, what renewal and replacement assets. Tonight, I think we have talked about it quite a lot in relation to the linkages that are missing. This is a perfect example of those linkages starting to come to fruition and the benefit we have. So in the end, my end goal, my view of how this all works is the political pressure organically drops away because the processes and policies support the community in a substantial way across the board. So yeah, look, I'm happy to support this motion and look forward to the great work that we'll see in June in regards to playground strategies, because as a young father, I'm also jotting around the town utilising these spaces, as I know many young families are.
That's right. Okay. Any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll go back to Deputy Mayor. You happy for me to put the motion? The debate is now closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Motions without notice? Any motions without notice? No. Council member attendances. I went to the Climate Emergency Australia conference in Melbourne on Friday. It was quite a confronting information session, and 3.5 degrees will probably go up to 3.5 degrees. They talked about the Barrier Reef, they talked about world, they had a big world, I've got it all on my phone, I took heaps of photos, and there's areas of the world that will be unlivable. And it was quite confronting, but we ended up on a high and talked about what local government could do, because Climate Emergency Australia is all about local government, and Tim gave a fantastic presentation, and I listened very intently. But yeah, he got lots of questions afterwards. He presents very, very well, and yeah, it was quite interesting what we can do, how we can do our communications. You know, on our website, there's no climate emergency action on our front page. There's none. So we need to change that. I spoke to Aidan Curtis, and he's going to provide a bit of a how can we all get together and work together to combat climate change and reduce our carbon footprint. So, yeah, and that's what we need to do. That's exactly what we need to do. So, yeah, it was quite interesting. I'll work with Tim and we'll produce a report. And yeah, 3.5 degrees. It's up to about 1.7 now, and it's just going up. We're producing more coal and gas, and yeah, it's actually not good for the planet. So yeah, it was quite confronting. Yeah. Anyway, that was me. Anybody else? I went to the Beverley Mosque on Sunday. I went to the march, the Anzac Day march, and we had a benediction up at Pioneer Park. It was well attended. It was well attended along the streets, and yeah, it was a fabulous event. Wendy came along. Yeah, so I went to the Beverley Mosque, and that was really quite wonderful because it was a women's event, and they and Helen has you've got a design on your hand, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it was the Ahmadiyya Muslim Women's Association, who have obviously representatives who live within our region. So yes, it was an excellent networking event, and their knowledge and understanding of actually our council was quite interesting, actually. So it was a very good event. The other thing I would like to do and take the opportunity is to acknowledge that tonight the Northern Stars Toastmasters, who meet down at our Elderly Centre, are celebrating their 600th meeting, and I would have been able to go, other than the fact that we've got the meeting on tonight. Just another one of our smaller but very significant community organisations that upskills members of our community, so congratulations to them.
Thank you. Any other Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, a couple of things. I went to the skate park event that the council held, and it was quite good, quite well attended, much better attended than last year when it was raining. So it was good to see that happen. And I've also been along the main street the last couple of weeks. There's been a few openings and reopenings of things. It was just yesterday that the bakery finally was able to successfully relocate. And also at the spot of the Just Desserts Cafe previously is now a new cafe, Little Mama's Cafe. So both of those were quite good if you're interested in taking a look.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Solomon.
Just quickly, yeah, I did go to a performance which has been put on by Northern Light Theatre Company of The Wedding Singer. That was in just next door in Elizabeth, but there are a number of people who are a part of that group who are from our region, our region collectively, but from our town as well. So I went along to that, and that was a great production. So needed to mention that.
Thank you. Any further? Oh, Councillor Sample.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. Yes, one that it's gone for a while now, but it was an interesting one to go to, was the wake of a Gawler citizen that used to, I see somebody else was winding the clock, thank goodness, because I would imagine be Mr Koesler or somebody like that. But going to John's wake, a huge number of people there, and to hearing what John had been involved with in our community. It was very sad that he's not with us now. The swap meet at the moment is getting ready to be planned for Gawler. There's no doubt about it. It's a marvellous. I attended the meeting on Tuesday night, and 160 people attend the meetings, and I would urge that if ever there's a meeting, when you're able to go to the Gawler Veteran Vintage and Classic Vehicles Car Club, it's easy to say really, and go along, because they do have a good show. They have a couple of guest speakers and so forth there. I attended the Barossa swap meet the other day. Wow. I mean, they opened the gates at 7 o'clock and you couldn't have got a park anywhere in Angaston. It was the most incredible, huge event, very successful. The GM Day that was held down at Essex Park, the car that took the show was an orange-coloured, very bright-coloured car, Chimera, one of these latest model Chimeras, and there's this guy that he didn't do any burnouts or anything, but I would have loved to have seen him do it. I think every one of you know who it is, but it's a beautiful motorcar. He won't lend it to me though. The car rally is on this weekend. I'll be heading out tomorrow because we've got a base camp at our property. The car club itself, it's now called the Rally of the Heartland, and it was the car rally that we had in Gawler that was actually used in and around here, and that's up there. They've got a full contingent of entries, and there's 5 drivers from Gawler that will be taking part in that particular rally. So certainly going to be a busy weekend, and the weather looks like it's going to be great. And of course, the people will come from all over Australia to attend it. So it's been a bit of a busy time, and a lot of very favourable comments to the Makers Market. The people that attended, it's amazing how a market that Councillor Koch has had a fair bit to do with, without a doubt, has been a very successful thing. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about that from time to time, because it's been talked about in other towns and all. So congratulations, that's working well.
Fantastic. Any other events that people have been to? So we've done the officer's recommendation for the Beverley, for the Gawler and Barossa Jockey Club. Recruitment of qualified independent person. I beg your pardon? Yes, I know. I'm just getting to that. I'm getting to that. Yes, yeah, I do know what I'm doing. Yes, officer's recommendation, recruitment of qualified independent person pursuant to Section 90 Part 2 and Section 90 Part 3K of the Local Government Act 1999. Acting Chief Executive Officer, Executive Manager Community and Safety, Acting Executive Manager Development and Compliance. He's not here, he's gone home. Executive Manager Finance and Corporate Governance, Executive Manager Infrastructure and Operations, and Minute Takers. So how do we wish to, do you want to move that way, Deputy Mayor? And seconded by Councillor White.
Yeah, it's just basically because it's about a tender process.
I beg your pardon?
We're going into confidence because it's about a tender process.
Yep, thank you. And you're happy to second the motion. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you.